during their time as lovers of whiskey. Doesn't matter if you've whiskey, you're going to collect bottles that are going to become more than just nice bottles to have. These things are going to be things that you potentially replace and then replace again. You then find that the community and the people that you're drinking whiskey with and enjoying whiskey with too agree with you. There's consensus behind them as well, and everybody starts to just really appreciate that they've got a really good core range release expression available to everyone. And then what happens all of a sudden, because of the transient nature of whiskey, it disappears. It's discontinued. We're going to talk about a few of those tonight, but we're going to talk about things that have just recently been discontinued that I would consider are valid for this legendary status. Look at things that are imminently going to be discontinued that I would consider the same. And then also just consider the plentiful, the ones that are available just now that I feel could absolutely qualify for being legendary or at least future legendary Scotch whiskies. That's the plan for tonight. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. I'll see you all in a second. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Thursday night. If it's your first time here, welcome to Thursday night. Welcome to the vPub. I'm Roy, and I'm your host for the next couple of hours plus. It's funny. We kind of have a joke about how long the vPub runs for these days and how it's not typical YouTube content. It's very much designed. It's entirely what it's meant to be. It's to give us a wee bit of kind of quiet time, a bit of community time, a bit of chat, a bit of interaction, and just some contemplation as we enjoy the fantastic thing that is whiskey. And of course, the community that comes to its side. I always look forward to it. I'm always very, very glad that we do these things on a Thursday night, even when life is pretty hectic and busy, and it can be tough to come up with new, fresh, interesting themes and all of that stuff. I always feel good after I've spent a couple of hours with all of you guys, and I'm looking forward to doing that tonight. Tonight's theme, it should be self-explanatory. But what I think will help me share it with you and describe the concept to you is if we start off with things that are long gone, and then we work through things that are maybe for some of us still available, or certainly with a bit of determination, a bit of tenacity, you're going to be able to track it down. They're still floating around out there in the ether. And then we'll move on to things that are imminently just about to disappear, and then celebrate one or two that are not under any threat of disappearing right now, but they already absolutely qualify as potentially being something that we can consider as a future legend. I'm going to respond to somebody that was with a fantastic time hanging out at Limburg last week, over the weekend. Just that amazing time out and just celebrating so much whiskey community, so many handshakes, so many smiley faces, so many belly laughs. If I'm honest, it was fantastic. It wasn't particularly good for the finances. It was certainly not good for the liver, but these things are really, really powerful for mental health and topping up the batteries and recharging and all of that kind of thing. It was wonderful, and for everyone that made it, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me there. For everyone that came up and said hello, I'm really, really grateful. Thank you. And for anyone that didn't and is thinking about doing it in the future, we'll be doing similar things to that again. It's fabulous. Somebody did have, as I was taking some time out upstairs, somebody had a quick chat with me talking about the format of the vPub and asked why I do the welcome thing at the beginning. It's a fair comment. You know, I burned probably 15 or 20 minutes of the vPub just welcoming everybody in as they're getting settled, the people that join live. And I answered by saying at that time, and it kind of made me realize I need to talk about it a wee bit more with you guys. If you're going to make the effort to turn up here live, then I'm going to do my very, very best to at least try and welcome you at some point through the night. It's impossible to welcome and spot everyone. I often miss most folk, but I do my best. If you're picking it up in the replay, that's fantastic too. Please interact in the comments underneath and things like that. But if you're here live, then, you know, it'd be nice to try and interact with you a wee bit. Otherwise, what's the point? I just put this out as a pre-record, job done, right? But the other thing, and one of the main reasons I've learned over the years of doing the vPub, is that it takes 20 minutes for people to come in and grab a pew, a comfy seat, a bar stool, a dram. It's 20 minutes in before the audience are all settled and the peak. We start to reach kind of whatever number we're going to reach for a live vPub. So I just do that. I talk about the topic a wee bit. I welcome everyone in and just get settled for the first few minutes. Look at that. I've already filled 6 minutes just by talking about all that nonsense. Not bad, eh? Hey, welcome everyone. Let's do what we always do. Let's raise a wee glass and welcome you all. Say cheers. I hope you're all doing very well. Jump into the lounge now and welcome all of you beautiful whiskey folk, dedicated barflies. Cheers. As usual, if you're trying to get my attention, I always look for the orange, so just type Aquavite or at Aquavite, and I should be able to pick you up. Gary Field is here saying, evening, Roy. Good to see you, Gary. Great to welcome you in again. Drew from Arizona is here too, so good to see that wee logo in, buddy. Hope you're keeping well and doing well. Gene Kelly's here too. Hellswood, fantastic. Rick Johnson is saying good afternoon from San Francisco. Fellow lovely barflies and the legendary Roy Duff. Cheers. Good to have you in, Rick Johnson. I hope you're doing very, very well. Hey, Rick's got his own channel out there. Brain fart. Rick, why don't you put your link in the chat for your channel? I hope you're still doing it. I hope you're still enjoying it. And I hope things are going well over there. But he's a peer. He's a fellow content creator, and he's located over in San Francisco and putting out some decent content. Rick, I'm so frustrated. It's the whiskey something. It's already in the chat, but I'm not going to get to the bottom for a wee while. Good to have you in, buddy. Whiskey with Molly Ben is saying good evening, Roy. Good to have you, Ben. I hope you're doing well. Clutch is saying my Speyburn 15 is just out of reach, but I have a TB BSW in the glass and a sneaking suspicion it might get a mention tonight. Well, Clutch, it won't. And the thing is, and there's always a TB BSW just in shot here. That's the 40-year-old one that's there. But over here, there's always a TB BSW. It's just behind this Deanston box. This was a gift from my pal, Seb. It's always there. It's a bit of a classic. It's definitely not going to last forever. But because I was struggling to just get it down to 10 bottles, I'll just be holding 10 bottles up tonight. Don't worry. I'm not going to be sharing them all with you. I'm not going to be sipping them all. But I was really struggling to get it down. I had to cut it down and just try to focus on, for the most part, with one single exception that we'll kick off with tonight, single malt whiskies. And that meant that things like the Thompson Brothers TBBSW, which has had a lot of airtime in the past on the vPub, didn't make it through for tonight, but it's absolutely a quality dram and a qualifier for that status. Reb Mordecai saying good evening, Roy. Good evening, Reb, as well. I've got a wee message from you on WhatsApp, buddy. I'll get back to you hopefully, if not tonight, tomorrow. Dave Barnes is the Sassenach saying tours. I want my money's worth. Thanks, Dave. Thank you very much. I appreciate you wanting the longer the better. That's a nice sentiment to hear. Whiskey Weekend Dram Harrow is here. Good to see you, buddy. Doodle the Dram Arnie too. Ralph Metty is, and good to see you, Ralph. Hope you're keeping very well, buddy. Just saying evening, Aquavite. And Hellswood is saying good evening, Roy. I hope you had a blast in Limburg. Absolutely had a blast. I didn't do a lot of social media sharing. It's just, I don't have the time or the headspace or the desire I used to have for sharing on social media these days, but there were so many people there that hopefully there was enough sharing done, especially through the Aquavite Barflies page on Facebook, which you should check out. Michael Wood is saying hello to everyone. He's saying hello to everybody. He's saying I haven't typed in. Nice to see so many here. Good to have you in, Michael. How are you keeping, fella? Michael often plays the quiz at the end along with his notional chimpanzee. He writes down 10 random letters to see how you would get just playing against, I suppose, multiple choice odds, right? Even a chimpanzee should get 3 or 4 out of 10. Whiskey and Wine Trails, Tom in Arizona. Good to see you, buddy. Cheers, Roy. We'll be watching from the back booth, not in the chat today. That's okay, Tom. It's wonderful to have you just participating. And like the majority of the people that are just tuning in and not really active in the chat, that's fine. I'll just love having you here regardless. And the One Glass Man Warner is saying, cheers, Roy and everyone, with a drop of Ardnaho Inaugural on the glass. Saluth from Miami. Slancha, straight back at you, buddy. I hope life's treating you well out there in Florida. Papa Q saying, finally have a bottle of Ardnaho here in Nebraska. Infinite Loch. Let us know how it's going down. Are you enjoying it, Papa Q? I think the majority of people are super impressed with Ardnahoe, to the point that they're not really saying, oh, isn't it amazing for 5-year-old whiskey? The Infinite Loch is more or less 5 years old as well, by the way. People are actually celebrating it. It's just been a fantastic entry into the Islay canon. It's a fantastic, fantastic liquid. And Drew's saying, hey there, Ben, lots of people waiting for our buddy Aquavitae, so it must have been before I went live tonight. I'm going back quite a bit. And Roman is in. Good to see you, Roy. Roman Skovranek. I know that I'm probably making a mess of your name like I always do, Roman, but it's nice to have you, buddy, regardless. He's saying, great to see you at the fair. Oh, you're that Roman? Of course you are. We should have done some pronunciation practice while we were together, buddy. It was a treat to see you there. Always great to meet in person, even only for a short chat over a dram. That was the way of the festival, right? Everybody's kind of moving and backwards and forwards and everywhere. And Limburg Fair is not a very obvious layout. It's a bit of a kind of rabbit warren of a layout for a fair, but it's all the better for it. I quite enjoy it. Jean Kelly saying, hey there, Roy. Looking forward to a few more drams with you and the Barflies after having mowed the lawn for the first time this spring. There's a lot of grass cutting going on here as well. There's a lot of bright green, really vivid green colours appearing already. Favourite month of the year, favourite month of the year, May for me is here with us. Absolutely love this month. Nothing to do with the fact it's my birthday. I was going to take next week off for my birthday. I was going to treat myself. Then I decided no, because I've had a break in April already. I took a wee week off. And also at the end of May, I have to take the last Thursday in May off because I'm at the Campbelltown Malts Festival. So I'm not going to take 2 weeks off. I'm going to make sure that you get good 3 or 4 sessions in this month. So I will be here. I will be here for next week. And the only week that I'll be missing then, and I need to remember the date. From memory, I think, well, this is the 1st. So I guess it must be is that the 20th? That must be the 28th then, is the one I'm going to miss. Like I say, the last Thursday of the month, I'm not going to be here. Welcoming people at the end would be odd, Aquavitae. That's right, Jimmy. Good to have you in, buddy. It's always nice to see you here. Peter is saying, evening, barman. Good to see you again. And so it appears recovered from a great weekend. I came back feeling great, and I think it was because of the late flight. Had a really lazy day in Germany on Monday. I just wandered around with my friend. I hung out with Daniel at the airport. Had a really nice time. Yeah, I was recharged and ready when I got back on Tuesday. It was a fantastic weekend. Campbelltown Malts Festival will be the 23rd, says Pete Head. How does that work, though? That can't work if this is the 1st, right? I'm thinking about Thursday specifically. Jimmy Leg is saying, May is your favourite month. You're a silly man. September is obviously the best Aquavitae. That's when we usually get together in Glasgow for Legfest. I don't know if Jimmy's coming this year, but we are doing something slightly different now because we're having the Independent Spirits Festival in March. So that already gives us 2 sessions in a year in Scotland, 2 barfly sessions for us all to get together. However, what I will say is that if there is going to be an excuse or a reason for a gathering in September or around that time, for those of you that have got used to that, I think we can probably accommodate something, right? And Greg is saying, happy birthday in advance, Roy. Thank you, buddy. Thank you, Greg. And Raphael Rutlitka is saying, hello, Roy from Poland. Tomorrow I have an 8th marriage anniversary, and now I'm watching the vPub on TV with my wife. Cheers for you, Roy, and all your fans. Raphael. Take a wee sip of water before I raise a wee glass to wish you a happy anniversary to you and your wife. I don't know her name, but I hope she's quite comfortable sitting with you watching whiskey content. Cheers. Happy anniversary. I need to catch up with the chat. So it jumps back down to the bottom. Good enough prompt. And Robin is saying, no worries, Roy, even the way we pronounce the name where I live is surely not the correct Czech way. Okay, so I'm forgiven. Thank you so much, Roman. And Jeffrey Byers is saying, I think we share a birthday. If it's May 5th, I'm going to celebrate with a barfly daffmill. I'm picking it up from France this weekend. Jeffrey, we do indeed, and that's a fantastic thing for you to be opening cracking on holiday Monday. Rob is saying, do the barflies need an excuse to get together? Well, they need a reason. They need a catalyst, Rob. They at least need an arrangement, I think. But no, you're right. We don't need a fixed excuse. Hellswood is saying my birthday's end of September. Right. That's a good enough reason for a get together. And you're obviously packing up to move to Scotland as well, Helen. I hope it all goes very well with the move. Jimmy Legg is saying we're not coming this year. Had some unexpected large expenses, so I'll have to take a year off and I'll see you in 2026. Fantastic, buddy. As long as we've not got to the situation where you're afraid to visit Scotland because of all the craziness that happens when you get here. Dave Barnes is saying, tomorrow's my 31st wedding anniversary and I still can't get my wife to enjoy whiskey with me. May 5th, I share my birthday with you. It's another May 5th birthday. There are quite a few. Famously, me and the Whiskey Rev, two friends that drank whiskey every Whiskey Wednesday, for years together, had the exact same birthday as well. We were both May 5th. So there you go, Dave. It's a good birthday to have, buddy. Happy anniversary for tomorrow and many happy returns when the day rolls round. Who was the other fella that was enjoying a birthday on Monday? Who was the one that was going to open the Daft Mill? I've forgotten already. How could I have forgotten? Jeffrey Bangers? I need to scroll back up. Jeffrey Byers, I think they've shared a birthday with May 5th. Fantastic. So Jeffrey, to you and to my pal down south, Dave Barnes, many happy returns for Monday. Cheers. Okay, let's get on. We've got quite a few. No, I don't. I think I've got 3 to uncork tonight. And the reason that I don't have many to uncork tonight is that if these are genuinely legends, and I'm talking to you about things that I feel could be valid for talking about future legendary status, then it shouldn't be something that I'm just kind of uncorking, right? This should be something I know. It should be something I'm familiar with. It should be something that's probably valid as a perma-shelf item. But it's a little bit higher status than perma-shelf. This is something that has endured and it's become loved by many. So it's not just kind of me that's saying these things. These are things that have been given a vote of support and consensus from the community. Let's be clear, these are not hyped bottles. These are bottles that enough people have said, do you know what? This is a good one, and it's not going to last forever. Jeff Whiskey is in. Good to see you, buddy. Saying good evening, Aquavita, and you wonderful barflies. Okay. You might recognise this tissue paper packaging here. If you don't, you'll probably be able to just about see through it to see a brand in behind there. Now, Loch Lomond have risen to the top in recent years. There was a time that nobody really paid attention to Loch Lomond, and there were very genuine good reasons for that. They weren't bringing us the type of things that we wanted to drink as malt enthusiasts. Not so in 2025. And I would say not so for at least the last 5 or so years. Loch Lomond have become one of the favourites, excuse the tissue noise, Loch Lomond have become one of the favourites on many whiskey botherers' radar these days. And it's for a few reasons. They've solidified their core range. They've got 46% ABV. They don't chill filter. They still dabble with a bit of colour, which is frustrating. But what they are doing is starting to bring us some really very interesting, flavourful, crazy unique whiskies that we just love to get our hands on. This is the only non-single malt whiskey that I'm going to share with you tonight, but it's not to represent this bottle. It's to represent a range of whiskies that have become really very cool, and I think are on the cusp of being super collectible. I'm now at the point where I'm thinking I should have bought more. I should have bought extras of these early ones that came out at the start. But these are the Distillery editions. These are very small outturn, shipped direct from the distillery themselves. We're now on Distillery edition 8, believe it or not. And that's been 8 releases over the last 3 to maybe 4 years. No, I think it's only been 3 years, maybe 2022, I think the first one came out. And they're always something a little bit different. Single distillery blends, sometimes a single grain, single brain. That's I could do with a single brain, right? Or more often than not, a single malt. This one is actually a single grain Scotch whiskey. It's called High, Narrow and Handsome. Small batch bottling, I'm looking for the outturn, 339 bottles, 56.4% ABV. But look at the age statement on this, 15 years old to go with that small batch outturn and cast strength. How much do you think we should pay in 2025 for such a treat? A really quite exclusive, in the real sense of the word exclusive, genuinely experimental, genuinely fun release. Yeah, 56.4% ABV. While you're thinking about that, I'll tell you. I'll just put you out your misery. For those of you that picked this up, you know what the cost of this was. I hope that you were tempted at that price to pick up a second. I've learned my lessons with this range, and I have picked up a second. This is the first one I'm trying, though. I've got 6 Glencairns laid out in front of me, empty Glencairns, clean Glencairns, and that way I know that I'm not going to pour any more than that. I won't fill a dirty glass, but I did pour an extra one that I'll come on to next after this bottle, and I'll tell you what this is in a wee second. It's delicious. Anyway, let's see what this Loch Lomond is like. Get it in the glass, a nice glug there. What I should do is give you a quick overview of what this one is. I don't even particularly pay much attention anymore. It's just a buy on site. It's an immediate purchase for me. Might be sold out already. Oh no, there's 9 in stock. Okay, there's still 9 available. It's not a lot. Hopefully you've picked it up already. Apologies. This will be all gone. So this is matured for 15 years and refilled bourbon, resulting in a... So I need to understand this because there's something about cut points on this one. Distillery Edition A is a 15-year-old single grain, which has been distilled in our continuous coffee still, using 100% peated malt barley. It's taken at a narrow cut point, which means the spirit has a high collection strength of 85% ABV. Remember, that's the collection strength. It's not absolutely not necessarily what it gets filled into cask at, but it does have very much that cut point, and that collection strength absolutely affects flavour. Matured for 15 years in refilled bourbon barrels, resulting in vibrant single grain whiskey rich with peach, velvety vanilla syrup. Okay, I'll leave it at tasting notes. We'll pick up our own tasting notes from it. But what's amazing about this is that when they talk about the coffee still, they're not talking about the huge column stills for where they make their grain whiskey. This is actually a copper coffee still that sits in their malt production hall alongside the straight-necked and swan-neck traditional pot stills. And they use that still to run malted wort through the stills, malted wash, sorry. So this is taking in 100% barley. There's no wheat, there's no corn, there's not any other grain and going through that column still. So even although it says single grain, that's just because SWA regulations means they have to call it single grain. But what we've got in this glass here is 100% malt, just made in a slightly different way. Rather than making it a copper pot still, it's made in a column still. Okay. For anything that I'm uncorking tonight, usual caveats apply. Of course they do. It's not a review. This is just a first reaction from me. Very typically super fresh from Loch Lomond, very fruit forward. Quite rich, lush fruits, I would say, kind of slightly syrupy, rather than the kind of fresh, crisp, bright orchard that you would expect with Loch Lomond. I think there's a nice wee bit of sweetening going on here, maybe from the casks. 15 years in those casks too. I think that's maybe bringing a slightly vanilla syrup, sugar syrup edge to things. Very fruit forward. I'm struggling to actually get past fruit on this. All the notes I'm going to be hitting you with, I feel like, apart from that syrupiness, is going to be fruity notes. So lush fruit, you kind of tinned peach, but quite ripe. Quite a ripe sweet pear, that kind of vibe. Very mouth-watering though. And if I try to look past the fruitiness of it all, I start to struggle a little bit. Maybe you need some time in the glass. You know, you'd see if you can pick up any kind of floral elements or maybe malt. maybe wood spice, that type of thing, especially for when it's been 15 years in the cask. But quite quiet. This is all about the fruit. Cheers, everyone. £55. Not a chance. The majority of people sipping this, there are majority of people out there who've got a better palate than I have. But the majority of people sipping this, I'm telling you, would not be reaching for grain. Grain whiskey often has a kind of sponge sugar element for me. Can sometimes be a little bit pink bubblegum, but candy floss, pink bubblegum, and almost like a texture that it doesn't matter what layers of flavour are on top of it, that betrays the kind of single grain component. Sometimes be a little floral as well, but the texture can sometimes be a wee bit thinner. The texture can get better with age as it becomes a bit more concentrated. For me, generally, that's what I'm looking for with this idea of a single grain. But what we've got here is something that's made from malt, so it's very different. Not a chance. Would they pick up? I think they would be reaching for... There are some elements there. There are some elements that betray things. That would maybe think that we've maybe stepped out of Scotch malt realm, certainly. But I think it could easily pass as a malt, quite easily. But they would not be able to pick out that it's 56.4% either. I think it's wonderfully well balanced, wonderfully integrated. I think it's doing very, very well for being 15 years. I start with this one because it's a recent purchase. I start with it because I hope that a lot of you guys have managed to get your hands on it as well. I appreciate some of you that are further afield might not get your hands on this, but if they do turn up at auction, some of them may. They're not going to go for much money. These are not highly sought after. These are very much under everyone's radar. These are whiskies for drinkers. These are whiskies for enthusiasts of the liquid rather than enthusiasts of having a lovely ornamental display or collection. So these are being picked up and opened and enjoyed. We've not plumped for that one as a bottle ban until we've moved, so we'll make do with the Loch, the Aquavitae 14-year-old. Fantastic, Helen. At least you've got some nice Loch Lomond on hand, right? And Christoph is saying, just did a quick hello tonight. Sounds like an interesting vPub, and I'm looking forward to the replay. Thanks, Roy and Slantius. Christoph, that's so nice of you to drop in. Just buy a wee dram just to let us know that you're thinking about us and that you're going to pick us up in the replay. And now that you are here and pick it up in the replay, Christoph, it's nice to have you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Hope you enjoyed your wee night off last night. And Donald Stewart is saying, evening Aquavitae and all in the bar tonight, joining you with a laddie Isla barley in my glass. Donald, if that's the first time I've welcomed you, welcome. And I hope that Isla dram is going down ever so well. Hey, Donald Stewart, I feel like it's the first time. Whiskey with Molly is saying, but it isn't grain, is it? It's malted barley in a continuous column still. You're always on it, aren't you? And he's also saying just came back from a loo break and missed to say that. Whiskey for drinkers, that's all we're here for, my friend. Fantastic, Jimmy. And Brian Stormont is saying, all gone. Roy strikes again. It wasn't my intention. I didn't even know how much of that would be left. So I've not checked this page since before I went to Limburg, and there was over 100 bottles last week. So it is selling out. It's disappearing eventually, but this has been released for a week or 10 days now, maybe 2 weeks. Not actually sure. Like I say, there's only 339 bottles. So it does, the biggest that they've ever released has been about 500 on one of these releases. So it does tend to go, but at 55 quid is just... There's just nothing to talk about. It's just fantastic value, really delicious, really rich, lovely, flavorful whiskey. And it's wonderful to sip them back to back, because that's really when you start to see the contrasts and the slight subtleties from the exact same malt facility, right? This exact same distillery, just with different changes of whether they've used straight neck or swan neck pot stills, whether they've used the column still, whether they've changed the cut points, the collection strength, the barley the yeast strain and things like that. Occasionally, these releases have used Chardonnay yeast as well, or wine yeast. Another excellent, sweet, juicy, ripe, luscious summer drinker. Lots of peach, heaps and heaps of syrupy peach. And there is a nice little fizz coming through now as well. That ABV is helping things, bringing a little bit of grip and texture. And there's no doubt that I'll be trying to get that down to the shoulder over the course of the weekend, maybe sharing it with a couple of pals. We're all becoming Loch Lomond fans these days. Talking about being fans, I've got a wee package here. This is a new book I want to share with everyone as well. Since we're selling stuff tonight, where would we buy this? Oh, I might need to ask someone else for a link for this. So unprofessional. So ill-prepared. Okay, it looks like we're going to be able to get it everywhere. Waterson's, Amazon, there's crowdfunder link. What whiskey website is selling it? All right, okay, we're fine, we're in good shape. This, you can buy this easily, you don't need a secret wee link or anything. So this is David Stirk's new book. I'm reluctant to take this great tissue paper off it. Look, nicely wrapped. I was part of the crowdfunder for this. So this was shipped through to me this week. It arrived for me coming back from Limburg. And this is David Stirk's new book. Oh, there's quite a chunk of stuff in here. It's quite a thick book. I think it's about 20 quid. I don't know if there's a price on it. I don't know. The crowdfunder, I think, was about £20, £25, something like that. But here we go. It's called Whiskyopolis. It's the rise and fall. The rise, fall, and resurgence of Campbelltown's whisky industry. I'll read the book jacket for you. Imagine a small town that once boasted a distillery for every few hundred of the local population. A quaint borough at the end of a long and remote peninsula generating more duty per capita than anywhere else in the British Empire. Think about that for a second. Generating more for the crown, more for the treasury per capita than anywhere else, not just in Britain, but in the Empire. That was 100 years ago, Victorian times, right? Then consider that all but a few of the town's distilleries disappeared in less than a decade. How did Campbelltown become known as Whiskyopolis? What happened to its once mighty industry? This book explores the phenomenon that was and is Campbelltown whisky, from its Victorian heyday to its collapse and resurgence. We've got a nice little quote here by Charlie McLean. That's nice. Who's done the forward for this one? Oh, signed. Okay, a wee personal message here. I'm not going to show that up. And at the forward by Serge Valentine. Anyway, I just want to let people know that this is out there. David's done a couple of books recently. He's did a fantastic independent bottlers book, and then he followed that up with Pioneer and Spirits. So he's starting to get a good body of work out there. This is actually a rewrite of a book that he originally did over 20 years ago, or about 20 years ago. He did the first research and released a book called The Distilleries of Campbelltown, but he'd learned and uncovered so much information since then that he's rewritten it again. A lot of plates in here, a lot of images. Fantastic. Looking forward to get into this. I wanted to give David's book a wee plug. He's a good lad, and it's nice when there's these new things appear for us all to get our teeth into. Okay, so I'm going to uncork something very, very quickly because I want to compare it to this that I've got in the glass. If we start with the things that are long gone, the legends of whiskey that are long gone, and I asked the community, I asked people to suggest, asked my patrons to suggest, and there was a lot of kind of overlaps there. But there was a lot of people that made me realize that a lot of my community are just on the scene in the last 2 or 3 years. And a lot of the bottles that I'm going to share with you now, some of them you may not have much experience with, But if you consider where I started in whiskey, I came into whiskey in 2005. I got really geeky about it 2009, 2010. And then things got really stupid when the Whiskey Rev and I were enjoying Whiskey Wednesday together. So that would have started off about 2013, 2014, something of that order. The whiskies that become legendary during that period and then disappear mean that they are often maybe not spoken loudly about in the 2020s and 2018, 2019. But there's enough of you around, I think, and I know from the comments, that would know what whiskies I'm going to mention as honourable legendary legends of the past. Odderty is saying, no one comes to the vPub for professionalism, just the chat and opinions. Thank you, Odderty. Let's keep it like that, please. No pressure on me then, or less pressure on me. Whiskey Vault is saying, that one is on my birthday wish list. Fantastic. Give us an ISBN, perhaps, says Falsgraf. Okay, buddy. Yeah, excuse me, there is no obvious ISB number on the back cover. Maybe it's inside. Has there been one? Yes, there is. ISBN number. I'll hold it up, and then I'll read it out as well. And hope the camera focuses on that. Can you see that, Falsgraf? Yeah, you can. Look, hold it still. So that people can pause it in the replay. My goodness. ISBN number is 978-1-0683-472-0-7. There we go. Maybe I should type it in, but there we go. You can pause the video and snap it from that. But anyone searching for it, just search for Whiskyopolis by David Stirk. That's what I did there. And it's popping up everywhere. You can pick it up wherever you fancy. But yes, there's going to be a scenario, and I'll grab the comments just now from the live chat, because there's going to be things that some of you will recognize and some of you may not. My crowdfunder is still in transit, says Rick Johnson. It's crazy that the post takes so long to reach California. Yeah, quite a far away. You're right on the other side of the planet, buddy. Just it'll get there. Don't worry, and it won't be off. It'll be in good shape. Pedro is saying we're going from FOMO of new bottles to FOMO of new books. Aqua Vitae. There's plenty of this around. No need for fear of missing out, buddy. You'll get it. Michael Wood is saying, Roy, that syrupy peach is something I found in a bin Romac. 2012 cast strength. Weirdly, I found no peat or smoke. Don't start suffering from what I suffer from occasionally. We spoke about it all over the weekend in Limburg, only for me to get my own back on people and hand them a smoky dram and ask what they're getting, and for none of them to get smoke in the drams towards the end of the weekend. I really enjoyed that, because as much as smoke is obvious when your palate's fresh or you're sipping in contrast, if you sip a few smoky whiskies, or you've had a bit of palate fatigue, just sipping a few whiskies or whatever, the smoke is something that's all too easy for, I won't say everyone, I'll say for me to dial out. Major Nut is here. Seeing you on Cork and a Loch Lomond makes me remember the 15-year-old I have will have a dram when catching the replay. Good night. Oh, good to have you in, Major Nut. I know you've been picking up on the replay recently. I really appreciate it, buddy. Ian Bruce is saying, maybe the Ben Eagles miniatures, my grandparents had them dotted all over the living room. That's going back way before my time, isn't it, Ian, buddy? Don Miguel is saying a mention for the legendary Aaron 14, maybe. There's a bit of overlap here. Absolutely. Falsgraf is saying, no fuss. Wasn't aware of the possibilities. Sorry. Falsgraf is now feeling sorry after asking me for an ISP number. Don't worry, buddy. Whiskey Weekend Ram is saying, reserve the book. Should arrive in May in the Netherlands. Looking forward to read about Campbelltown. Good for you, Harrow. And the Reb is saying, I have the book, The Distilleries of Campbelltown by David Stirk from 2005. I seem to remember it was a bit dry. That was his first ever foray into writing. So I would suggest to you that he's got a wee bit more experience under his belt. I don't have that original book, Reb, so I can't comment on it. But there's certainly plenty of heft to this new publication. All right. I'm going to share with you things that I can't really... I'm not going to... I could uncork these, I could drink them with you, whatever, but I'm not going to do that. These are things that are what the theme of this vPub is based on, but this vPub is going to be looking at the now and the future based on these things from the past. I hope that makes some sense. And as you've quite rightly spotted, we are talking about things like Aaron's 14-year-old. This is something of the past. Listen, it does appear, depending on where you are, if you're in the far-flung markets in the States and things, you'll maybe still find ARN14 on the shelf where you are. Certain markets are able to still get a hold of this. We certainly cannot here. We need to go to auction for this. But this was my whiskey of the year in it was on the channel, so it must have been 2017 or 2018. So it's not that long ago, but it's long enough for this to be discontinued and recent enough for people to remember it vividly and really, really miss it. This is a slightly bigger bottle. This is a 750 cl bottle. Sorry, 750 ml, 75 cl bottle that was gifted to me from my friends in the States, Phil and Deepa. They brought this over and gave it to me, and it's fantastic to have it back on the shelf. And there's going to be a theme here about age statements. Watch the age statement theme here. Here we've got a Mortlach. This was just very, very recently opened on the vPub. I uncorked this one. You can go back and watch that if you want. 43%, of course, like all flora and fauna are. But this is the reason this bottle became such a legend that Diageo have been trying botched attempts to rebrand and relaunch Mortlach ever since, based on the legendary status of this, not realizing that they're getting everything completely wrong. This had a nice age statement on it. It was gorgeous liquid. It was revered. It was not hyped. It was just general consensus that it was excellent. And it was also about, well, okay, it would have been much cheaper than that, but when it was discontinued, it was between 30 and 40 pounds a bottle for a 16-year-old. It was that and the fact that it was being bought and enjoyed by drinkers that made it a legend. The reason that this is disappearing fast and the reason that the price is going up on this is because the number of bottles available are disappearing, because this is still being bought today on secondary market for people to drink. This is a loved legend. Another one I could add into the mix here would be Old Pulteney's 17-year-old, for example, at 46% ABV. Famously, the 17-year-old was often celebrated more than its sibling 21-year-old, and that's certainly true for me. I tended to prefer the 17-year-old. They could often be very similar, though. I don't have any Old Pulteney 17 on hand. The last one I had, anybody that was here for a pre-COVID Glasgow event that we had, you might remember me donating a bottle for the bottle share that night. That was the last bottle, and I've not had any on hand since. Again, I think it's unlikely, but it's become such a legend that even far-flung markets might struggle to grab an Old Pulteney 17. Likewise, this. Now, you know what I'm holding up here. It's very familiar to you all. This is Glendronach's 15-year-old. But the reason I'm holding it up, despite the fact it looks very, very, very similar to the contemporary Glendronach 15-year-old right up until the very, very recent start of the rebranding at Glendronach, people will know that this one is actually, people call it the Billy Walker Glendronach, and that makes sense. It was under his ownership. But everyone knew that the 15-year-old and then the 18-year-old and the 21-year-old from Glendronach, because of the years that Glendronach were closed, it had to be much older than the age statement that was on the label. So it was one of these things. We've always known that when vatings, when single malt releases were being put together, not these days, but in the past, it was common for them to use older stock to just lift it, give it a bit of depth, a bit of dimension, a bit of body, a bit of colour even sometimes, whatever the reason was. But we knew that it had to be the case that they were overaging for these releases. There's a famous spreadsheet online that somebody put together to show you what the ages must be, depending on the year of the bottling date. So Glendronach's revival became a legend. That's despite the fact that when you sip it against not all of the batches of the new release, but certainly the first batches when it was relaunched again in 2018, I think, 2017, 2018. It was discontinued in 2015. It spent a few years off the radar, off the shelves, and then it came back again in the same livery with some minor changes to the branding. But they were both fantastic whiskies. Depending on which batch you're comparing side by side, the consensus tends to err on just much, much richer, darker, thicker, weightier, oilier, more body on the older releases. The original one, which would have started from around 2009 to 2015. These are what I'm talking about. These three bottles and the Old Pulteney 17 and many, many more that I've not even bothered listing could be considered legends of the past. like this one that I have here. I've spent a lot of time talking about AnCnoc 16, maybe not in recent years for obvious reasons, because it's not that available, but it's in the glass right now. And it's fantastic. And this is my last bottle now, my last bottle. I keep finding ways to use it. I keep finding reasons to open and share it. And it's because I just love it so much. This is the only AnCnoc that was available that we knew to be fully ex-bourbon matured. And at 16 years old, we're not talking all first fill here. We're talking a lot of refill in the mix here too. And just a gorgeously bourbon matured Highland / Speyside, depending on how you want to identify AnCnoc distillery that this is from. It's right on the cusp of Speyside and Highland. It's in a malt whiskey yearbook as a Speyside. It's in other books as a Highland. But it somehow manages to be unique. It's ex-bourbon, 16-year-old Speyside whiskey with just something wonderful, ethereal, difficult to put your finger on sometimes. A sweetness, a depth and a richness, and also a mineralic thread that runs right through the middle. I'll never forget a tasting I did in Paisley just last year. And I took across bottles, a few kind of, let's say, milestone type bottles from the channel. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof was there. Lagavulin 12 from 2017 was there. A Longmorn 16, a bottle of Longmorn 16, which is another one that would absolutely fit the theme for tonight, that's long lost. And I took along this AnCnoc, and the AnCnoc was right in the middle of the tasting. Something as light and subtle as this shouldn't perform. And yet this was voted Dram of the Night. That's how good it is. It was able to shout above all these other big hitters that we took along for that tasting that day. I don't have another bottle, but you can still get them. They are still out there, 16-year-old AnCnocs. They brought their anniversary release. It was cast strength. It wasn't that great. It was a 16-year-old. It looked like it was going to be an homage to the 16, and it was, but it just didn't come across like that in the palate. It was a wee bit of a letdown for me. The 16-year-old at 46% is still available in some markets if you can get it, but there's very, very few left. If you get it at a decent price, a reasonable price, maybe even close to original retail, you never know. You know, while we're dreaming, I would recommend that you try and pick it up. But what I've got here is a present from a friend of mine when I was over in Limburg at the weekend. He pulls this out his case and he says, I brought this for you. Here's a wee gift, based on how much he knew I loved AnCnoc 16. Now, this is a single cask. This is a single cask for Germany, but it's exclusively ex-bourbon. Look at that gorgeous colour, right in line with the 16-year-old. It's higher ABV, 51.4% ABV. But after 16 years, for that to reach that 51.4 naturally is really exciting. That means that this is hopefully going to be quite nice, concentrated AnCnoc flavours. I always get a wee bit of mineral and a wee bit of clove on a typical AnCnoc release. Even the 12-year-old for me at 40% has a bit of clove. But this is a 2007 vintage, bottled in 2023. Oh, what a pop that was as well. Excellent stuff. Let's see how it holds up. Just pour a wee tiny drop in it. I'm getting through the glasses tonight. Because this is what it does to us. This is why it's important to try and identify these things now. Because if we're able to identify these things now, we can put them aside. We can buy a backup bottle now. We can make sure that we're covered for their disappearance in the future. Most of the things I'm going to share with you tonight have disappeared or are planned to disappear, but there's one or two I'm going to suggest at the end of the stream tonight that you make sure you've got a wee backup bottle of just in case. Okay. Nosing very similar. Gorgeous fruit. Really interesting. Really interesting. And I have to caveat the fact that, of course, as you know, you've just seen me open that one tonight, fresh into the glass. Whereas the AnCnoc 16 that I poured and I've been enjoying tonight has been open a long, long time. The single cask is much more orchard forward rather than kind of creamy white fruits and stone fruits. But right in the center is that slightly drying, slightly like soda water fizz, slightly chalky, minerally, wonderful thing that seems to help almost elevate some of the fruits in there, just with the contrast, just with the sipwards and backwards and forward. But the fruit in this is orchard, much more orchard. This won't be the last time I mention AnCnoc during this vPub either. For those of you that are not aware, for whatever crazy, mad wisdom that's going on with, why am I getting a warning about audio? Nobody in the chat has told me anything about it. It's gone away. It looks okay. Hopefully I'm sounding okay. Hopefully you can all hear me. For whatever reason, Inverhouse, the owners of AnCnoc do Distillery. AnCnoc is the brand, Distillery is AnCnoc do, of course. They've given us a 40% 12-year-old for years, but they've had this lovely kind of balance. Despite the mass market 12-year-old, they've had their 16-year-old, for example, their 18-year-old, originally 22-year-old discontinued, then a 24-year-old discontinued, but they've all been fully natural, non-chill filtered, not coloured, said so on the label, 46% ABV. Age statements, as well as other non-age stated special releases and things like that. They used to be really good at bringing some fantastic things to market. It's been really quiet recently. I don't know why. But what they've decided to do is relaunch the 16-year-old, which is fantastic, but it's coming out chill filtered and at 43%. So it's very, very unlikely that we're going to get back to that original status. It's a little bit like the Mortlach thing where they've kind of tried to reimagine a legend and they've just made it, somehow they've just made a complete backside of it by doing it differently. Listen, I can't judge until I drink the liquid. They might manage to pull something amazing off and at 43% chill filtered, bring a fantastic dram at a good price and all of these great things. But it always is going to inevitably leave us thinking, whoa, how good could this be if they just left it without taking out all of those lovely components that goes through the filter, that gets left in the filter, all those flavor conduits, all those fatty, long-chain fatty acids and esters and other compounds that I don't understand for any other reason than the fact that it makes a huge difference to my experience drinking the whiskey. However, they're doing the same with other brands in their portfolio, which we will get to very, very shortly. Audio clear here. Audio is fine as far as I can hear. Audio is perfectly fine. Yeah, I'm glad. I warn you, Aquaviti, your audio is fine, says Jimmy Legg. Thanks, Gene. Thanks, Hellswood. Thanks, Falsgraph. Fantastic. Had some great SNWS, AnCnocs, Aquaviti, some quite young too, says Helen. And Whiskey Vault is saying, yes, they really want to look more like Knockandu after all. Yeah, I mean, Knockandu's doing okay in the export, but it does nothing domestically here. I don't know how well it does in the States. I think it probably does okay. I don't know, but yeah. Knockandu's export strength as well from Diageo at 43. That Knock do 23-year-old original bottling, 78 to 21, 57.4 watt. Beast, says Greg's Whiskey Guide in Paris. 23-year-old, an OB, a 1978, 2001. Which one was that? Was that a small batch, single cask? Sounds like you loved it. Some of them have been amazing. Dave Barnes is saying, you have Old Pulteney 17 and Arden 14 backup. I gifted you them last September, lol. So you did, buddy. So you did. That's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. Both of those are in the... I might have told you the story on the vPub that because there's so much stuff in this room, I convinced my wife to build a nice cabinet and put it in the living room, and I made it look really gorgeous, and I put lights in it and things to make it... I told her that it would look like a fireplace with the orange glow. It looks fantastic there. The problem is that all the full bottles, all the stash bottles, all the gift bottles live there. That's how I've missed it, Dave. And you're absolutely right, and I'm red-faced to have forgotten, my friend. I've got a backup of my Arran and 70cl guys, and also a very valuable, very delicious wee old Pulteney 17 as well. Quite amazing. Doodles Ram is saying, first time I got a backup for years ahead is the recent What Glenelgin 11 makes my knees wobbly every sip. That was one of the best. It was just that lovely kind of refill bourbon deliciousness from Speyside, right? Magical stuff. I loved it. I couldn't believe how well it was performing and showing at 11 years old, Darnay. You did a very good thing to get a backup bottle of that. Greg is saying, I was a limited release of 3,000 bottles, Roy. Tried it only once. 3,000 is not a bad outturn, though. Maybe it's something that we should be on the lookout for, something that's that makes you remember it like that, right down to the ABV, right? All right, so that's our AnCnoc. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop talking about the legends that we can no longer get, right? Okay, these things that have gone, these things that have passed us by, that are in our memory, and our nostalgia that works and lives in our memory is going to make sure that every time we recollect them or talk about them, it's going to be elevated each time. They're going to become more and more legendary and even more delicious as time goes by. Well, here's a bottle here. In fact, the next 3 bottles are still here now, but we know that they are either they're already gone or they're on their way out. Let's start with the most obvious one of all of those. I'm going to start with the one that's going to be very, very hard for you to get, the one that you can still get, and one that you should still be able to get quite easily. How does that sound? And I have to just pour one of them. So which one to pour? Which one to pour? Let's have a wee think. This one, believe it or not, is still available to some people. It's still the original price. It came out about £70, £65, that type of order. So depending on where you are, it might end up being like $80, $75, about anywhere between 60 and 70 euros, that type of thing. Retail. And that is a very rare thing indeed. A wonderful, delicious Bowmore. This is the Vaults edition, but specifically, and this is the thing you must understand because it is so different, this is the Atlantic Sea Salt edition, which is their Vault Edition 1. Do not confuse it with Bowmore number 1. It must say first release, and it must say Atlantic Sea Salt on there. Interestingly, they describe it as Atlantic Sea Salt on this little gold plate here. Sorry, just in the gold font under the gold plate. But for me, the thing this is the one I'm going to pour. I'm just going to pour this because I love it so much. And this is the last that I have of this. If any of you guys find it on the shelf out there, I would absolutely take a bottle off you. As long as it's at retail, I would absolutely have another backup of this on the shelf. I get through this far too quickly. I love the stuff. It's right up my street. This is... There's going to be a lot of first fill bourbon in here, a lot of refill bourbon, and maybe other bits and pieces, but this is very kind of bourbon forward, but it's very, very traditional peak Bowmore. It's like a modern contemporary take on all that lovely tropical fruit that we love to get and find in Bowmore, but is all too easily destroyed in the official releases of today. All that caramel colouring, all that stripping, all that chill filtration that they do, Bowmore have trashed their official lineup. It's really hard to find an official Bowmore that you can love right now. Universally destroyed. And that's not just me speaking. There's a consensus behind that. This is gorgeous liquid, though. This is just... It's not very often that I nose a whiskey and feel like I don't want a camera on me right now. I just want to sit for a minute. And it's got that really, really interesting herbal, slightly floral, interesting, strange side to Bowmore. A wee puff of peat smoke. Nothing to, if you weren't into peat or you didn't like peaty or smoky whiskies, I think you could still dance with this. It's just gorgeous. A really ridiculously long finish. Please don't be put off by the fact there's no age statement on this. This is a teenage product. It tastes every bit like that. This is just a spectacular bottle of whiskey. If you find it, if you can keep it sealed, and if you're going to see me soon, if you can mule it to me. It's terrible using you like that, but it still exists out there. It's still there. Unbelievably, this is $89.99 on Bezos. That cannot be true. That cannot be true. $89.99 is too high, okay? It's too high. It's too expensive. And yet it's there. Add to basket. What am I doing? I'm overpaying. I'm absolutely overpaying. But that's it, purchased. I feel dirty. Bezos, big box of blue, right? Thank you, Ben. Trying to keep my money for Campbelltown at the end of the month. But these are transient things. That's amazing that it still exists. Found the Bowmore Vault Edition very sweet. Only really enjoyed it as a level dropped. Might open Vault Edition 2 tonight. Are you sure? Where's Roy? Are you sure that it's this one? This was very sweet. This was the Edition 1. Vault Edition 2 you're thinking about opening tonight. Of course, we assume that there was just one big batch. I love this stuff. So on Amazon, Alan Smith saying, had a bottle of that Bowmore. I was sad when it was gone, says Rob Smith. Lord Impaler is in. Good to see you, buddy. Saying I picked up this Bowmore in 2017 for 57 quid in the UK. I could check my order history. That's exactly what I remember paying for it roughly about that time. Atlantic Sea Salt release was one of the best whiskies I bought that year, says John Coogan. See, this is consensus. I know that Roy didn't maybe like it, but I wouldn't buy that Bowmore when it was here. It was $200. That was in Canada. Too expensive. And A. Martins is saying I found it better than the Vault 2 Aquavitae. Yeah, yet to try good Bowmore Aquavitae. I don't mind the 15, but the rest sadly have been watery, smoky cabbage. They're just worthless. They're garbage, but this is amazing. Chat has jumped. David is here. Good to see you, buddy. Whiskey with Molly saying it's too expensive. Add to basket. I know. Jeff Whiskey saying, wait, I got an affiliate link, soften the blow. Sorry, buddy. I was too fast. I was too quick. Jimmy Legacy saying, lol, you look pretty clean. Resistance is futile. Roy FOMO is real, says Hellswood. And FOMO kicking in live and kicking hard, lol. It's my own FOMO. That's the thing. I'm generating it, and so, and I almost every other bottle that I'm going to share with you tonight, I have a backup of. But that one I do not. Amazon doesn't sell alcohol in Ellerin, says Dan. DVDW, sorry, buddy. And Sachin is saying, which edition of the Vault Edition do you mean? Edition 1, Atlantic Sea Salt. It's critical that it's Atlantic Sea Salt. This is the bottle I bought after the blind tasting at your house. Fantastic, Ben. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Obviously you did, because you bought it blind tasting. The wonderful Jimmy Jazz turned Tom and I onto this Sea Salt edition. Fantastic, Drew. I hope it's this kind of that concentric ripples of evangelism, right? That's what helps solidify this concept of legendary. Don Miguel says in Spain you can still find some bottles of the old Bowmore Tempest. First fill bourbon cask at cask strength. It's a banger. I've got some Tempest left over there, about a third of a bottle left. It was a gift actually to me from Ralphie. Yeah, can I suggest to you that the Tempest is a cracker, but there's a bit more balance to this Atlantic sea salt, in my humble opinion. Mika saying, how does that Bowmore compare to Tempest? Fantastic, Mika, because of Don Miguel's comment. You've managed to do that for you in advance. Rob Smith is saying, say no to FOMO. Well, yes, absolutely, I would agree, but I've gone ahead and done it myself. So, okay. So let's keep moving on. Let's move on to things that, you know, you can continually, comfortably get a hold of. And this happened to me this very weekend. I was talking to my friends in Germany about this bottle as well. Well, we're talking about FOMO. This is pretty much dried up in the UK now. This is Longmorn 18. Please do not get confused with the current Longmorn 18. It's impossible for you to get confused because this is affordable and the current existing Longmorn 18 is not. It's more than double the price. This is a secret Speyside series. So they brought this alongside, I think it was a 21 or 23-year-old from memory. Longmorn, they also brought out some other distillery releases and very similar branding, like Caperdonic and things like that. And these were often sold heavily through airports, global travel retail, duty-free. But this is a really, really well-spec'd bottle. We don't know its chill filtration status. Actually, I'm a big hairy liar. We do. It tells us on the label, which is fantastic. It tells us that it's non-chill filtered. American oak barrels and hogsheads, it says double cask matured, 18 years old, 48% ABV. This is Longmorn's secret Speyside edition. So I was talking about this and how much I loved it. I talked about being down to my last bottle of it at the weekend. And one of the German guys said to me, have a look at Frankfurt Airport when you're on your way out. They often have it just sitting there on the shelf. And of course I did. Stefan, was it you? €109, which is maybe a nudge expensive, but it's certainly a wee bit cheaper than what I paid for this. I think I paid 110 or 105 something for this one. So this at €109, what's that, about £95, £90? I've picked up what will inevitably become an absolute legend, even if it's just in my own head. This is fantastic, fantastic Speyside whiskey. It's fantastic Longmorn. It's fantastic Scotch. It's just so good. If I was to write tasting notes, if I was to sip this tonight and share the tasting notes with you, it would be very, very difficult for me to come up with tasting notes that could articulate how this little 18-year-old has elevated above its peers from its own producer, its own distillery even, how it's elevated above so many other 18-year-olds that was out at the same time. When this was launched, I felt it was a wee bit expensive, right up until the point that you get to know it. And then it's just, this will absolutely retain a similar position in my legendary little mental list of brilliant whiskies as its sibling 16-year-old in the olive green coloured packaging. I loved, loved, loved that whiskey. I love this one today every bit as much. So even if your local retailer doesn't have it, look out, especially if you're going through European airports, it would seem, have a wee look for this, because there's a lot of dull in those shelves, let me tell you, at global travel retail. If you find that wee Longmorn 18-year-old, you've found yourself a pearl and an oyster. It'll also have a good chance of existing in your shelves too. Let me go one more before I jump back into the crowd. There's still plenty of this out there. There's plenty of it on my shelf as well, whereas I have a backup bottle. This was going, when I was sitting in Islay with cousin Kevin, we found this online for 98 quid. It was on sale. £98 for AnCnoc. 24-year-old AnCnoc. Fully natural. And this is like no other 24-year-old that exists. It's nothing like anything else. One day you can pick it up and you would never guess it's 24 years old. It tastes younger. Other days you can pick it up and it tastes so deep and so rich, and it's every bit 24 years old and more. It's super detailed. It's super all over the place. It's complex. It's challenging. It's different. It's very, very, it's got that AnCnoc slightly weird, doing its own thing vibe. The last bottle I picked up was £115, I think. starting to creep up a little bit. It shot up to about 145, 150 before it finally disappeared from the shelves in the UK. But there are still markets out there that's got it at its original retail. We're speaking about 100% natural, full integrity, gorgeous single malt Scotch whisky from one of my favourite distilleries in the country. 24 years old for anywhere between 100 and 150 quid. If you agree with me, just put it in the comments. Let it be not just me that's talking about stuff like this. Let it not just be one person that's trying to make something become legendary. But we always knew that AnCnoc 24 couldn't last, not at that price. By the way, Inverhouse were still making profit. They were not making a loss. But it's pretty much gone from UK shelves, but it's still out there. We can still get it. I'm going to talk to you in a second about what's just about to disappear. It will be going very, very soon, and its sibling product. And then we're going to spend the rest of the session tonight talking about things that's very much still available and still plentiful, with no fully confirmed, obvious, known threats to it disappearing, but would like to appreciate it anyway, just in case. With all this FOMO, thank goodness Andy has hidden our credit cards. Must resist and buy them. No, just FOMO just is something that we've got to manage. It's something that's part of our hobby, something that what comes along, but it's also not something to be kind of become stressed about. I mean, it's just, if we have FOMO, we just make a mental note. If it's not the right time, if it's the right whiskey, it'll find us. We will get it. It'll be there in the future. Whiskey is never gone. It's a super stable product. We'll bump into somebody else that's got a spare bottle that's willing to do a trade. We'll find it at an auction. One day we'll just be browsing in a random shop while we're on holiday and it'll be sitting on the shelf. You know, there's lots and lots of ways, especially when we've got a community like we have right now, that if we're really desperate and if the FOMO is bitten to the point that it's so hard, we really, really want it, we just reach out to our community and say, anybody seen this around? Alistair McPhail is saying, Longmorn 18 Secret Speyside is fantastic. I'm on my second last bottle. I should squirrel away more. Graham Fraser saying, good evening, Barflies, Craigellachie, from Craigellachie, during the Spirit of Speyside Whisky Festival. Of course, Graham, you're up there enjoying the Spirit of Speyside right now, buddy. Thanks for your updates in the Aquavitae Barflies page on Facebook. Wonderful to see what you're getting up to there, and I hope you keep enjoying it tonight. Keep enjoying it throughout the rest of the trip, and thanks for joining us tonight. Helen Williamson is here saying, good night all, have a great weekend, catch you next week, and happy birthday for Monday, Roy. Helen, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us tonight, and if you pick the rest up in the replay, I hope you stay till the quiz at the end and have a bit of fun with that. Thanks for joining, Helen. Daniel Key is saying, we almost missed the flight for that bottle, Aquavitae. No, we didn't. We're in plenty of time. But you saw me, Daniel, you were with me, and as soon as I saw it, it was an instant snatch. And as I was standing at the checkout paying for it, I was thinking, should I have bought 2 of these? If I had no money, I'd spent all my money in Limburg. With all this FOMO, I picked it up, Helen. Thank you so much. Alistair McPhail saying, I agree with you about AnCnoc. Thank you, Alistair. So we agree on the Longmorn and we agree on the AnCnoc. Michael would have seen, Roy, buying whiskey must be like buying art and antiques. Even if nobody else has good taste, it doesn't matter. If you think it's special, then it can be loved and the cost is justified. I think you're absolutely spot on, and I think that's really quite wise. There's a lot of wisdom in what you say there. What I do love, though, is if we could have that extra, if I'm quite happy sitting enjoying in my own, that's wonderful, but an extra layer of the ability to share it and watch someone else enjoy it, or the ability to give something else that I know that they already like as well. When we've got consensus and we've got those kind of mutually appreciated bottles, I think it's even better, Michael. It's always good to have you in, buddy. No mention of the Benromac 100 proof Aquavitae, that hurts. Oh, I might be able to continue with you. I know. And what Jimmy is not talking about Benromac Cask Strength. Cask Strength is a fantastic product from Benromac. It's got vintage on there. It's got a bottling date on there, so we know exactly what the age is. Just a wonderful product. Jimmy is talking about the original Benromac 100 proof that was at 57 7.1% ABV, 100 proof, of course. That preceded that. That became a bit of a legend, but it was sold by batch also. It doesn't appear in my list tonight. It could have easily, but I don't have a bottle of it, not even an open bottle. It's long gone, Jimmy. And I think the reason for that is I've been very content enjoying lots of the stuff that's coming from Benromac today, the Contrast series especially, and of course their cast strength. A. Martins is saying that's a lot of AnCnoc, 16, 18 and 24. Are they all going away? Absolutely. 16 has gone, 24 has gone, 18 is going now. The 16 is coming back at lower ABV, and they're also bringing out, I think, is that a 21-year-old that's coming back as well? But yeah, if you love any of those natural, fully integrity forward ones, I would suggest that you grab those now. Just manage FOMO, says Rob Smith. Sounds good. We need to try to manage it, right? And Drew is saying, actually, don't believe I've ever tried AnCnoc. Is right or wrong, I figured it was like Arran and Glencadam and not in my lane. Well, it depends, Drew. It really does. It might be similar to you. For me, it's different. AnCnoc is doing its own thing. And I always think it's just well put together. Whoever puts it together is doing a good job. Doodle the Drama is saying, what birthday is it going to be for you? 41, 42. Thank you, Arnie. You can come again, please. Inverurie Whiskey Shop, good to see you, buddy. Saying my own journey led me to think I was a jinx. Favourites included Boveni 10, Macallan 10, Glendronach 15, all disappeared. So I decided to open a shop so I could access the whiskey that didn't disappear. That's Mike from Inverurie Whiskey Shop. So good to have you in, buddy. And what a thing to do. FOMO's that bad you open your own shop. Highland Hamish, good to see you, Hamish. How are you doing? Are you still out in Germany? Looking forward to doing a tasting at the Boat of Garten Hotel tomorrow night as part of the festival. Bonus dram for any barflies who attend. Fantastic. I hope you're enjoying the Speyside Festival, and I wish you the very best for tomorrow night's session. Should be a cracker. Alan Smith has bought me a wee dram. Good. Thanks to you, Alan. He's saying happy birthday when it comes, Roy. Thank you very much, buddy. I think I'm going to get something else in the glass. What will we move on to? I actually made notes of what I was going to sip tonight. I'm already doing quite well. I'll just see how I feel. Okay, so we've covered what's gone, what's long gone. We've covered what's recently gone, but still kind of available. Let's move into something that's had so much airtime on the vPub, you would not believe it. It's become like a mantra. It's become just an obvious choice, a perma-shelf. He's going to talk about that again. He's going to talk about that again. And yet it's going imminently. This one is going, and its other age-stated sibling is going at the same time. We will lose it, and its replacements are coming out of 40% ABV. You know what I'm talking about. You can stick it in the chat if you think you've guessed. Ralph Metier is saying FOMO stands for found one more opportunity. I love it, Ralph. Brilliant stuff. Jimmy Legs also bought me a wee dram. Roy looks great for 73 years old, doesn't he? Well, 74 on May 5th. Thank you, buddy. Whiskey. It's pickling me, right? It's keeping me young. And Superstar Generous Stevie O has bought 20 Aquavitae gift memberships. So there's 20 new barflies just joined tonight. And what you're doing along with all the existing barflies is that you make it easy for me to never switch on ads for Google AdSense. I'm never going to share that revenue with Google, or they're not going to share it with me because I don't switch on ads. Because the barflies keep everything completely ad-free. And I am now, thanks to you guys, making more from that Aquavitae membership than I ever made from Google AdSense. And more, I'm able to give something back to you rather than just removing the ads, and you don't have to sit through any ads front, middle, back of the videos. You also get the wee barfly emoji, you get the loyalty badge, you get all the channel-themed emoji, Glen Cairns and all of that stuff as well. So it's much more fun. Thank you for your support, Stevie O, and thank you to all you amazing barflies out there. Cheers. Oh, wow. I suffer from peat blight, right? I don't get a lot of smoke. I can easily dial out smoke. And without thinking, without my brain looking for it, I just put my nose in that glass there and I got this lovely, like a hearth, a fireside, a fresh wood smoke thing right out of the glass. Cheers, everyone. And a delicious wee glass of whiskey as well. Multi-mission saying, must be the cast strength of we drink, preserves us and keeps us young. Aquavitae. Yeah, you've got a few more years going by your aesthetic, buddy, than I have too. Gary Field saying, thanks, Roy. Resisted the Bowmore. Found it on another site. Also 90 quid. Off to bed now. Listen, buddy, that's the right thing to do. Don't be as gung-ho as I just was. Don't be as... I'm glad to have found that. I didn't think it existed anymore. I'm shocked that you guys found it on Amazon. Happy birthday for the 5th, my friend, says Grain of Malt. Thank you so much, James. Looking forward to seeing you at the end of May down at Campbelltown, celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 61 months. Pink Barfly for the very, very longest in the tooth, supporting me. Okay, let's move on then. Have you guessed? Has anyone guessed what I was just about to talk about? What's the thing that there's loads of it still about? It's just about to disappear, but we will miss it when it's gone. Travis Morita saying, poor Speyburn. Whiskey Weekend Drama saying, Speyburn 1518. Ralph Metier has been around long enough. He's saying, Speyburn 15. Absolutely spot on. Here's the bottle that I've got on the go right now. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous whiskey. And here's my backup bottle as well. Of course it is. I actually managed to pick up a bottle for a really quite good offer. I think I got it for 59 quid. I think, don't quote me on that. Listen, don't go out and overspend on any of these bottles. Don't go spend over retail. Just pick them up at a price that fits and works for you, because there's so much great whiskey out there that we might miss these legends, but are we really going to miss them that much that we're willing to overpay? Please, no. This, when I first started talking about it, was about £55 a bottle. It was a fantastic bargain. I've loved sharing this with people. I especially love pouring it blind for people who think that Speyburn 15 is a little bit kind of lower shelf. It is not. It's top shelf stuff. It's amazing stuff. Full integrity as well. Non-chill filtered, says on the label. Love to read that. Fantastic. Natural colour as well. 15 years old, 46% ABV. Everything we're after. It says the dram is neither chill filtered or coloured. So they're aware of this stuff, right? They're putting it on their labels and yet they're going to 40%. Weird, weird, weird. Somebody at Inverhouse is being stupid. We need to talk about it loudly. We need to bring it to their attention. I hope you've signed that petition, despite the fact that it's been going for, I think, about 2 months now. It's still kept open. So there's a petition out there to try and encourage AnCnoc and Speyburn to stop playing funny buggers, but they're going to do what they want to do. So that means that we've got to act. We're going to pick up these and pick up backups of these at retail at the right price, and we're going to make sure that we can enjoy these things going forward. And when nostalgia does bite, we can go back to it on our shelf and taste it and say, oh, okay, it's not bad. There's lots of other things like this now. Or we can say, oh, wow, this really was good. It was quite unique. This has become more expensive these days. Like I say, if you're having to pay more than about £70 a bottle, don't. But I do think it's worth that, maybe a nudge more. It's really good whiskey. The Speyburn 18 is its sibling. It's a little bit softer and richer, slightly sweeter. This is, to me, has got a wee bit more kind of bourbon in the mix, maybe. I don't know what brings an extra bit of detail, an extra bit of vibrance for me. But my favourite is the 15, between the 15 and the 18. Love the stuff. Spent a lot of time talking about AnCnoc tonight and Speyburn that are both from Inverhouse. And it's for no other reason than that they're making silly decisions and they're disappearing. Like everything else on the vPub, whether I talk to you about a whiskey or a book or anything, I'm speaking to you because these are things I would like you to know and participate in. It's not a sales pitch. It's never a sales pitch. I get to talk about whatever I want to talk about. There are no affiliate links here. There are no sponsorships. There are no freebies. It's all me buying everything with my own money to share with you. And when it's good stuff, I want to evangelize about it. That's what it's all about. It's a wonderful thing about being independent. Oops, just jumped. Whiskey Vault is saying €52 for the 15. Brilliant. And 85 for the 18 here in the Netherlands. Quite crazy. Buy up the 15 at that price. €52 is 45 quid a bottle. Fully natural. 15-year-old. Fantastic, delicious single malt Scotch whiskey. It's got to be done. $56.99 currently on the Whiskey Reserve. Fantastic price. That's cheaper than the last bottle I bought. Fantastic stuff, Ben. Hillsworth is saying there's always going to be a new legend. Someone told us once upon a time there's millions of whiskey out there. I did, and I will continue to say that. I really will. There's a pressure on me to kind of come up with new content all the time and come up with new concepts and all of this. And this is a brand new concept. And I would consider that it's got the ability to have updates in the future as well, not annual, and certainly not more than that, but maybe every 3 years, you could talk about how this has shifted, how this has moved in time. And it's not intended to go against that advice of there's millions of whiskey out there. This is part of the millions of whiskey. And I want to be able to grab it while it is in the millions rather than in the lost legends of the past. That's what I'm trying to focus on. I haven't achieved it yet, but I'm getting there. Sadly, Aquavitae, I cannot participate twice. I don't know what the reference is there, class. Participate in what have I missed? Because of your comment and when I've been speaking, obviously, is quite a time difference. Mika saying, I've just got a few weeks ago, 2 15-year-old Speyburns for €48 a bottle from an auction. You made me do it, and I don't regret it. Have you had it open, Mika? And are you loving it? That's the most important thing. Rick Johnson is saying, here in the US, the 15 is $73, still fine price, and the 18 jumps to $175. It's just America, right? You guys, as soon as your importers or your agents or your distributors see as an 18-year-old age statement, you guys are getting fleeced. Fleeced. It's just the naivety or something. I just never understood that. It needs to be spoken about loudly. We're beyond those days now. We're in a digital world where everybody can out this stuff. Don't buy it, boycott it, protest, shout about it, complain. Have you ever thought of sourcing some vPub ideas from patrons? Yes, I have. But I did it way back at the start. And for every good idea that comes in, there's other ideas that you don't want to use and you end up offending people. Brian Stormont is saying, will pricing be the same when they change ABV? Not that I'm likely to purchase. Pricing is, it's usually the only thing that goes up is the profit margin. In my experience, Brian, unfortunately. Jimmy, if the content of the vPub is getting a bit stale for you or whatever, please, by all means, chip in with the comments and things like that. I do try my very, very best. But what I've always understood, the thing that drives me and the thing that keeps this thing going is if I do my own thing, and I know it's terrible and selfish, and if I present to you every week the things that I genuinely want to talk about, then I think that's what keeps the vibe in a place that it fits me and I enjoy it and I look forward to it. And after it, when I kill the button at the end stream, at the end of the night, I think, I enjoyed that, right? Because I'm talking about what I want to talk about. Daisy is in. She was with us all weekend as well. Fantastic to have her in here tonight. Evening, Rowan Barflies. Home from work and just poured my first dram after Limburg and Ardnaho 10. And no, it must be an Ardnamurchan 10. In fact, it might be Daisy, that Ardnamurchan 10 there. I hope it tastes every bit as good tonight when you're back at home as it did when we tried it out there in Limburg. Scott Allen is saying that's totally correct about 18-year-old whiskey in the US. Absolutely, Scott. You guys are just getting, it doesn't matter what the brand is, it doesn't matter how much the wholesale is or whatever. Jimmy Legg is saying the easily offended have no place anywhere I frequent. I don't think you've ever offended me, that's the thing. Of course, I opened one immediately when I got them. Love it, says Mika, and he's shouting that as well. Fantastic. That's so good. That's what I need to hear. But I also need to hear if I make a mistake. And if I shout about something that you don't like, that's just as valuable to our community as something that you do like. And it reminds everyone that it's always just one person's opinion. Multi-Mission is saying, I'll wager you're doing something right, Roy, sailing your own course as you've gathered quite a few shipmates. And some of them are really quite dear friends and shipmates like you, Menno. One time we're going to get together over a dram or two in real life and we're going to make a mess. You up for it, buddy? Inverurie Whiskey Shop. Unless it's Springbank, the FOMO days are pretty much over, with the odd exception. I would pretty much agree. And I think for a lot of us, I know it's tough for you in retail, no doubt, Mike. It's going to be challenging times for you, but you need to kind of cut your cloth and things a wee bit differently. Maybe get back to getting people liquid on lips and tastings and all of that. I'm not sure. But for me, on the drinker side, it's much more appropriate. I feel more comfortable with things just being a wee bit less crazy. Anyway, it's time to get something open here. How do I? Okay. There are 3 bottles left to share with you. And the only thing that they have in common, 3 completely different things, are that they are all still available and they are absolutely plentiful. It would be wrong for me to call them guilty pleasures because they are not guilty pleasures. They are genuine pleasures. None of them will be a complete surprise to anyone. I suspect one of them, everybody will just go, oh yeah, of course, that's obvious. I think another one will be like, oh, well, that's an interesting pick, good one. And then there's another one that's going to be completely left field, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of you. Unless you've been around this channel for a long time. I talked earlier how I'd got into whiskey in 2005. By the time I hit 2010, it was a boat trip with my brother in 2009, and a bottle that we bought for that trip that had such an impact on my life that it's literally the reason I'm sitting in front of you here today. I was asked by somebody at the Limburg Whiskey Festival, go on, I'm going to ask you that annoying question, what's your favourite whiskey? Just give me an answer, just give me a distillery. And on the spur of the moment, I went with it and I just answered. And I realised that there's still a hell of a lot of truth in it. It's impossible to answer, right? It's based on mood. It's based on so many things. We always should reserve the right to be fickle and change our minds over time in whiskey. But I just up and I replied, Lagavulin. So I'm holding up right now a bottle of Lagavulin with you all. This one is still sealed. I have another one sealed up on the shelf there. But the one up on the shelf is the 200th anniversary bottling. That I'm probably not going to open, I'm going to keep. What I'm hoping is that this much more recent bottling, since the original 200th anniversary when it was launched in almost a decade ago now, it would be a decade ago, is every bit as good as the first ones. Because this is Lagavulin in a much fairer presentation. They don't declare that this is natural colour, but this is very, very pale whiskey. I'll show you in the glass in a second because it's in smoked glass now. It's at 48% ABV. Of course, it's probably chill filtered. But this is not the 16-year-old that I fell in love with in 2009. This is a much brighter, fresher, and yet weirdly more full-bodied version of Lagavulin, this 8-year-old. Look at how pale that is. Almost white wine pale. So let me tell you, if they're putting colour in this, they're not putting much in. I still adore Lagavulin. As a distillery, as a malt, I am bewildered at the decisions. I'm bewildered at the prices. I'm bewildered at the messaging. And yet, that bottle of 16-year-old has looked exactly like it does today, pretty much, since 1988. So there's a hell of a lot of consistency there too. That cool, clean outdoor smoke. It's not medicinal. It's not earthy or muddy. It's bright and fresh. It's like clean, fresh rock pools. Lots of salinity. A floral element, really like blossom, just a breeze just full of blossom. Crunchy, clean, bright green apple. Beautifully balanced, beautifully poised. Pause for a second. There's a little bit of ice and sugar. Cheers, everyone. Lovely arrival. I would even go as far to suggest that compared to the 16, there's a silkiness to this. It just feels like there's a little bit more body to this. Half the age, but the extra ABV seems to help so much. Silky, it just works silky. Ice and sugar is there on the palate too. The apples, the tart green apples have sweetened up nicely. Bags and bags of smoke. Not earthy peat, like I say, not dense, ethereal, light smoke. Maybe a little bit like outdoor wood smoke or a hearth, maybe a fireplace. Warm, inviting smoke, a cleaner smoke, like a white smoke. Beautiful whiskey. Often very, very cheap, often on sale. Starting to disappear. When was the last time you saw it for you guys in the UK? When did you last see this on your shelves at the supermarket? It's disappeared for me and it's disappeared for a long time. When I went on to look to pick up a bottle of this recently, there wasn't a lot of it out there. My regular online retailers didn't have it in stock. I'm wondering how long they're going to keep up with this 8-year-old product. Order Taste saying Lagavulin 8 is a stone cold classic. Whiskey Vault really like that Lagavulin 18, crystal clear and punchy Lagavulin. I have a bottle of that 200th anniversary, says Jimmy Legg, 8-year-old, right beside me. Aquavitae, do you want it? I'll take it, Jimmy, if you don't like it, but perhaps it's something you might want to keep for yourself. I've got a bottle here. Red Mordecai saying Lagavulin 8 is 100% ex-bourbon, almost as good as the 12 and for a third of the price. I would agree with you there. Reb's talking about the 12-year-old annual release's cast strength. The last time that was released, it was £155. So he's absolutely right about the third of a price. Only buy the 8-year-old lager when on offer at Tesco. 16-year-old no longer worth it. Well, we have to remember that it is 16-year-old single malt Islay whiskey, but when the price went from 60 quid to 80 quid and they weren't giving us anything back, it was just like, oh, okay. So it put itself in the company of far too many other attractive competitors at a time when the liquid was becoming weaker and weaker and weaker as well. That's the huff that we've taken with the 16-year-old. Maybe it'll come back to us one day. I sincerely hope it does. Still have a soft spot for it. Keith McDonald's saying, sorry to be missing a live vPub. The rugrats are calling hello barflies. Listen, buddy, Keith, that's exactly what life is like, what it's about. If you can still find the time to pick up the vPub when you've got your little kids about, then I doff my cap to you, big guy. Thank you for making the time. It's tough. Sachin is saying, I like the 16 more than the 8. It's personal to everyone. But I can pick up this for 50 quid. And the 16, okay, the 16 is permanently on sale. You can regularly get it in the 60s. But if you were to pay retail for it, where did you 55 for this? You'd be 80 for the Lagavulin 16. Gordon Bernstein is saying, picked up a 10-year-old, wasn't aware of its existence. Flying out on holiday a few months back, myself and my brother-in-law made light work of it in the warm evenings on the balcony. Magic. So the 10-year-old, specifically Gordon, is a travel retail exclusive. Lower ABV than this. And it's often sold alongside the Offerman editions and things like that. If you have one, I'll keep mine. Absolutely, Jimmy, you should keep it. Then we have one each. Alistair McPhail has bought me a dram as well. He said, happy birthday when it comes, Roy. I'll raise a glass in your honour on the day Slancher. Aye. Thank you very much, Alistair. Thank you for buying me a dram in advance, buddy. And I'll maybe buy you one back when we eventually get to clink a glass soon. Cheers. I got 8 punches well above its age, says Jean Kelly. Oops. Master Chief Sea Chest, that's Mark. Good to see you, Mark. I know where I can get Lagavulin 8 tomorrow. Well, if you like peaty, heavily peated, smoky Islay whiskey, Mark, this is a delicate, elegant dream of Islay whiskey. Whiskey Weekend Drama saying, I have great 8-year-old in that glass. The Coquerine 8 bourbon at Aquaviti for me, a legendary sherry, port or bourbon. Absolutely, Harrow. But we are in no immediate risk of Glengyle or Mitchell's doing anything to those. They're going to keep bringing us those releases of Coquerine 8 cast strength. I don't think we feel a nervousness that it might disappear, whereas I feel recent times the Lagavulin 8 has gone a wee bit quiet on us. Not as available as it once was. Lagavulin 9 Game of Thrones is not as good as the 8 Aquavite, but a good consolation prize. I have to say the Lagavulin was one of the better Game of Thrones releases. Doodle Drama saying, I know how my whiskey radar is so tuned in with this community here. I often ignore many whiskies. Lagavulin is one of those which I have not spent any time with so far and really should. And I also have to say, you've kind of skipped a lot of stages, Arnie. You've come in so hard and so fast that you're already right up at the independent bottlings end of things. You're very much leveraging where you are in Glasgow right now. You're in Scotland, so you're able to get lots of things that are kind of much more specialist. Whereas tonight's vPub, like a lot of the content on the channel, is going to be focused on things that a lot of people can get their hands on globally. Greg is saying Lager 16 is most often over €100 here in France, but to be honest, it was a long time underpriced. Couldn't last like that at 55 or €60 for decades. Do you think Diageo was losing money? Mika is saying the 16-year-old lager is not what it used to be back in the 90s. I absolutely agree, Mika. 8-year-old for me any day. So we've got some consensus here that this is still a wee bit of an under-the-radar thing. There's still some consensus. Some of you out there, the guys like Sachin and things like that, maybe prefer the 16 still. That's absolutely acceptable and okay. More power to you for saying so as well. But this is a neat, tidy, elegant pick for me. If it was to disappear, we would miss it. What do you think about if this should disappear? Just leave it in short. Julian Rickman is saying Lager now 54 quid. In our biggest supermarket, not on offer as many times as it used to be, but it's a lovely dram. And Falscraft Class is saying those Loch Lomond editions at the beginning, I am sure how I'm not sure how global they are. That was the caveat, buddy. That was the so I started with that to say it wasn't a malt, it wasn't exactly in theme with everything. And the reason I've opened it tonight in this vPub is not because it necessarily fits with the theme, but because it was appropriate, because it was now, because it was delivered to me while I was away. When I came back from Germany, the package was waiting for me. So it was the very next vPub I could open it with you all, and it was something that was very contemporary. It's of the moment right now. So, and Sachin is saying I'm such a contrarian. Not at all, buddy. We need. This is a safe space. When you have a different opinion, say so. It's beneficial to everyone. Absolutely. And Bob Wenting, Bob, I hope I've welcomed you before. He said, Aqua VTR community. So I got membership gifted, thanks, which is nice. I'd like to become a member on my own account. How do I get my own membership? I'm not very sure if you can just keep that going, Bob. So you can just, if you're on an Apple device, iOS tablet or phone, you can't do it because Apple want to control all the transactions. But if you're on desktop or Android, you can just click the membership button and join through YouTube. And that's how you do it. It's $1.99 of whatever currency you are. And it keeps everything on the channel completely ad-free. It's not a funding thing for me. It helps. It absolutely funds. But my funding is through Patreon. So if you search Patreon for Aquaviti, that's where my real, that's how I earn a living. That's what keeps everything going, not just Aquaviti channel, but all my projects are funded through that. And my amazing bunch of patrons over there, Bob. Thank you for introducing yourself tonight, and thanks for being part of the Barflies. Everyone is saying, good to see you, Chris. I'm thinking that modern classics almost need two classifications, special releases versus Fantastic OBs. I remember the buzz around the 57.1 Coquerine 8 that everyone wishes they bought extra. That was a really, really specific one. It was when Coquerine was still in the tall, round bottles, and it was 57.1% ABV. It wasn't designed. That was just incidentally the cast strength. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful, juicy sherried Coquerin. I still have a bottle of that, one left, and it's not getting opened until a very kind of special or appropriate scenario. Okay, you've seen what's sitting here. Glen Scotia's Victoriana. Now, I've got two bottles that look exactly like this, and they've both got various levels of tiny in the bottom here. These need polished off, these need killed off. It's a perma-shelf bottle for me. Here's the new livery. Here's exactly what it looks like today. I'll hold these up and hope that it focuses. Glen Scotia Victoriana. It's a very, very batch-made product. It takes a long time to make because of the various kind of finishing and recasking and everything that goes into making each batch of Victoriana. The lead time from decision to make a new batch to actually realize the new batch on the shelf is typically 18 months. And yet, when we talk about Whiskyopolis, when we talk about this Victorian era thing of the distilleries down there with this book, one of the things that I always think about is just this homage that Glen Scotia has done for that era of Campbelltown whiskey, right? That's what the Victoriana was all about. And to try and create a flavour profile that was, like I say, a celebration, an homage to the original Victorian styles of whiskey. I'm going to pour a wee drop of this most recent batch from Victoriana. I am in no worry or state of stress that Victoriana is going to disappear. I hope that Victoriana is a continually successful product, despite the fact that it's non-age statement. It's one of these bottles that's got us over our anxiety about non-age statement whiskies, that it's going to exist for a long, long time to come. It's really nice. I would have to say that the first four whiskies I had tonight, the two AnCnocs, the Bowmore, what else did I have? Did I have a wee bit of that Longmorn? I don't think I did. And then I went on to the Lagavulin for a complete step change. And the original whiskies I was sipping tonight were kind of very, very different from each other, but they're similar profile, similar ballpark of flavour profile. The Lagavulin changed that, right? And now that I've hit this Glen Scotia Victoriana, completely changes that again. We've got this kind of grungy sense coming out the glass now, this crazy industrial vibe. It's all kind of iron and char. It's metallic and burnt and caramelized. It's heavy and it's oily and it's grimy. It's like old school whiskey. That's exactly what it makes me think of. Think Ben Romack. Think sometimes Ben Nevis. Think some Edredars. Think of those kind of dense, wild whiskies. It's got a sweetness to it as well. It's absolutely got a sweetness. It's got a nice wood spice, caramel sweetness, caramelized caramel sweetness. Let's go with that. And it's got nice punchy fruit. But through all is this kind of workshop vibe. Oil, creosote maybe. None of those notes I've come out with are exact. No one is necessarily going to put their nose in and immediately get it, but it's all me trying to find vocabulary to describe the sense, the vibes of this whiskey. Cheers. So flavorful, so shouty, so big, so vibrant. When we talk about whiskey fatigue and we talk about, I think often whiskey fatigue comes on because we tend to fall into our lane of whiskey that we love and we sip a lot of the same stuff. And that means that we often reach out for alternatives. So we end up trying some cognac or rum or a mixed drink or whatever it may be. I think sometimes we just need to mix up the bottles, the whiskies that we're actually trying. This is completely different. Glen Scotia Victoriana is quite a unique thing. It's already won the Oswas. I know that you guys already love it. It's not under threat, as far as I'm aware, of disappearing anytime soon. It's going to hopefully stay with us. The reason I'm sharing it with you tonight is that I feel like it's one of these things that's not had a lot of time on the vPub, despite the fact I think it could easily qualify as a modern day, ironically modern day legend. Sachin has bought me a dram. Thank you very much, buddy. I think that might be a wee birthday dram. Thank you so much, Sachin, my friend. It's nice to have you here. Whiskyopolis is saying, had the rebrand last week. Lovely bottle, that Glen Scotia Victoriana. Well, what's nice about it is the consistency of the quality of the liquid despite the rebrands happening, despite the new batches coming out. Sachin Kent, thank you very much for your dram. Cheers. 57.1 is the only one we missed out on. Love the Coquerine 8-year-old sherry releases. That's a shame, Helen, but there should be enough of it out there if you really wanted it. I really love the Victoriana, but I've noticed quite a bit of batch variation, says Rob Smith. I agree with you, Rob. I agree, but there's two things I'm going to say to that. Number one, they embrace batch variation. It's okay. We know that it's okay. It's going to be different batch to batch, despite the fact that they're trying to make the same thing, the same recipe each time. But it doesn't necessarily get worse over time, like we talked about with the Lagavulin 16 earlier or whatever. They're not cutting corners, they're doing the same thing. The other thing I would say is that Glen Scotia, to me, is getting better and better and better. The reason I say that is some of my favourite Glen Scotias of the last 3 years have been single-digit age statement releases. First fill bourbon, yes. Refill bourbon, that type of thing. And in fact, the festival release, not the festival release, but the dinner release, the bottling that they put together to share at their dinner last year was a 5-year-old. I got to try it and it was spectacular malt whiskey for 5 years old. This, if there is batch variation, I would suggest is potentially one of the few whiskies out there today in 2025 that we can feel pretty confident that it's going to keep getting better. It's in good hands and it's already a legend. It's not polite, it's not together, it's not balanced, it's not elegant, it's quite a brute of a whiskey. Sugar Kitty saying all of us are experiencing the exact same seriously strange phenomenon. Our Glen Scotia just keeps disappearing at short notice. Oh, wow. Is that disappearing in the glass from the bottle or disappearing from your shelves? Drew from Arizona says, I noticed quite a difference between the 51.5 release and the 54.2. Okay, so the 51.5 was the first ever Glen Scotia Victoriana. So there's lots of people talk about the step change there. And I think that what they've tried to do with the subsequent releases is settle on a recipe that they can continue to provide and sate the market with. Doodle the Drama Scene told you Victoriana is pirate ship whiskey. You have said that. Early Start is calling me, says Jeff Whiskey. Cheers to you, Aquaviti, a real modern classic yourself. Night flies. Good night, Jeff. Good night to you, and thanks for dropping in for when you did, buddy. It's nice to see you hanging out with us. Warner saying, I just went back to my old 2017 of Victoriana 51.5. Have to admit it's much better than I remember, or maybe it's the company today. Good enough. Whichever the reason, maybe both, it's a fantastic way for you to go back and say, here's something I'd forgotten about. Lucky you that you've got 51.5 on the shelf. Reb is saying, what's weird about the Victoriana is that they go on about the charred oak, but no mention of the 30% first fill XPX casks. Weird. Well, they do. I mean, especially if you reach out to anybody to ask how it's made, the amount of times that Michael Henry has sent me the recipe and I never commit it to memory, they will tell you. Maybe not on all the packaging. Maybe that's what you mean, Reb. And Rob is saying, say yes to batch variation. I agree, Rob. I love it. It's malt whiskey. If we make something by batch, by definition, then intrinsically it's going to have batch variation. We should celebrate it, buddy. Brian Stormont is saying, I believe there's a decent amount of older stock goes into Victoriana, which you quite rightly say is a perma shelf. Fantastic, Brian. Whiskey Vote seems to be on theme with Loch Lomond, both doing great things. Ian McAllister is such a great guy as well. If you're lucky enough to get to meet Ian when you're down in Campbelltown, he's such a gentleman with his time as well, very generous with his time. Sugar Kitty is saying, yes, some jack wagons keep consuming it. Others seem to keep buying. So it does disappear. Andrew Pears is saying, Aquavitae, the latest Glen Scotia unlocked release was 5-year-old. First fill bourbon cask and is a lovely whiskey. Great value at 50 quid as well. Batch variation is the future, says Mark Watt. So good to have you in, Mark. Glad you're joining us, buddy. I hope you're keeping well. Can't wait to see you down in the Tune at the end of May. Doodle Drama saying the fact that you can refer to batches by their ABV proves some bottles have already become wee legends. Well, I have to say no, not exactly, because both of mine, 54.2 for this tall, narrow bottle, and the newer branding is also 54.2. So this is not cask strength, this is batch strength now, and each Victoriana is going to come out at 54.2. The original one is 51.5. I'm not saying it's batch variation, says Sugar Kitty, but it's batch variation. Aquavitae 2025. All right, I've got one more to share with you. I've got one more clean glass tonight before we go into the quiz at the end. And I think that this might be an obvious thing to a lot of you. And I think it might be a surprise to many, many more. But I am getting through this whiskey at an alarming rate. And I think when somebody comes to the house and they say, I'm in the mood for something nice, what have you? And I reach for this. It's now, it's right now, and it's been there for a few years, and it's been this good for a few years, but it was a wee bit pricey when it first came out, and now other things have caught up with it, and now it's at its perfect point. I think it's at its perfect point of balance, of fair price, gorgeous liquid, unique. When you're in the mood for it, it's tough to reach for anything else on the shelf that delivers. It's triple figures, unfortunately, in the UK. You have to pay £100, 105, 110, 117, that kind of price. But I have noticed, because of the conditions that we're surviving today, it often goes on sale. I paid a wee bit more than 100, but I was slow out the traps. I gifted a bottle to a good friend of mine, Rob. I gifted a bottle of this to recently, and I managed to get it for just under 100. It was a good price. And when I bought this bottle for myself, I paid a wee bit more than that. I am still pretty convinced it's going to be worth it. This is a Speyside whiskey, and it's Craigellachie's 17-year-old. It's featured on the vPub in the past. And it tends to be featured when I talk about pushing the boat out, treating yourself, those kind of whiskies that, you know, you're going to spend a wee bit more money on and you don't want to be burned with. I have a bottle of, there it's there, I do have a bottle of this already open. This bottle I paid, this is opened on a vPub as well, and it wasn't that long ago, and you can see how much I've gone through this bottle here. So immediately when this is getting down here, that concept of a perma shelf, sure, I had to make sure I got another one of these while they're still around and still at the price that they are right now. Fully natural, non-chill filtered, lovely warm tub whiskey that we all love from Craigellachie and Speyside. 46% ABV, that odd kind of 17-year-old age statement. But notice a theme tonight. There's only 2 non-age statement whiskies that I've been sharing with you this evening. Only 2. And I don't think it's a coincidence that almost everything else I've shared with you, even that original Loch Lomond that went through the coffee still that we opened at the start of tonight, 15 years old. Longmorn's 16 years old. AnCnoc 16 years old. The Longmorn 18 as well, 18 years old. Craigellachie 17 years old. This is Scotch whiskey's sweet spot. And it's not something that we are told or that we read about. It's something that we learn through accumulation and through experience. The Bowmore Vaults and the Glen Scotia Victoriana are both non-age statement, but as we've already discussed, we know that it's highly likely they have significantly older or old enough components in the mix. This, right now, is at the perfect point in time where we will potentially be in a future where we go, oof, I'm glad that that existed. Maybe I should have bought a wee bit more. That said, I think we're also at a point in time where prices and whiskey is coming back to us. And what I would hate to happen is that I recommend that you go running out and pay 125, 130 quid for your Craigellachie 13s. Sorry, it's also a good whiskey is a 13, Craigellachie 17s, only to see that it regularly goes on sale or perhaps even comes down in price. People talk about the 13-year-old being bourbon cask and the 17-year-old being sherry cask. Not true. They're both vatings and a mix of both types. But just by me saying what I've just said, you understand the vibes. The 13-year-old is much cleaner, a little bit lighter and sweeter, whereas this is much richer and uses and leans on a bit more sherry casks. I should have had the 13-year-old on hand and I could have shown you the colour. Let me show you the colour difference between the two. I think it's a nice little visual to show you. Forgive me for a second. And this is one of the wonderful things that we can do when whiskies are naturally bottled. When these are natural colour, we can actually do wee exercises like this and compare the 13 with the 17 and see the difference in colour. Now, the camera isn't showing this up nearly as much. That's frustrating. Now, let's pull this out. Because as I look at these two, the difference in colour is quite significant. So I would like to try and make that obvious here. Let's put a bit of white behind, see if that helps. Can you see just how the difference in colour there? The 13 is much, much paler. So that does nothing really but just kind of give us a little bit of a glimpse into, colour appreciation, but of course cask makeup and things like that. I love the stuff. I absolutely love the stuff. It's very reminiscent of Longmorn's 18, but it's just got a little bit more wood spice. It's a little bit tipping towards a kind of more wood-rich profile. Tobacco leaf, dark red fruits, berry fruit, a little bit of jam, preserve, that type of fruit. The Longmorn tends to lean a little bit more white, a little bit more stone fruit. Oh, it's just good. It's just really good whiskey, and it's really balanced. It's really just clean and sweet, inviting. Cheers, everyone. Craigellachie 17. Juicy as hell. Lots of that berry fruit coming through. Wow, on the development on the end, all that wood spice comes in. Lovely, like a kind of cedarwood, sandalwood, that type of note, but lovely and sweet with it as well. Cinnamon, all on the finish there. But on the arrival, we've got that big hit of juicy fruit. Maturity and elegance is in there too. Lots of poise, lots of kind of weight and heft. It's very, very difficult to sip this whiskey and not immediately be distracted by just how bloody good it is. When it first launched, we were a wee bit appalled at the price for a 17-year-old. That was quite a long time ago now. Dan is saying, I just ordered the Vault 1 batch 1. Haven't had Bowmore in years and didn't love the 12 and 15 back then, but Aquaviti convinced me to give them a second chance. Dan, I hope you have a wee go. I hope you didn't pay too much for that Vault 1 Atlantic Sea Salt Bowmore, but it's a fantastic thing. And that and one of the Face Shield releases is really the only recent Bowmore, official Bowmores that I've been able to even touch. Hell's Wed is saying, that's not like you. That's not what's not to like about, sorry, Craigellachie 17. Last bottle was 90 quid from House of Malt. Superb whiskey. Great price to pay for it as well, Helen. Well done. Whiskey Vault is saying, heard from a brand representative that it is always 50-50 bourbon and sherry at Craigellachie. Fantastic. So wonderful in itself, because what we see there with that colour difference I showed you is potentially nothing more than age. Class is saying, definitely visible, Roy. He can see it. Good stuff. Jean Kelly saying, striking difference, Craig. 13 is perhaps the best value available. A wonderful whiskey in itself. I find myself drawn to the 17 just because of its richness and its kind of special treat, kind of almost a celebration, special moment style feeling vibe about it. Juice Terry saying, can you spot the spelling mistake on the label, Aquaviti? Would I have to read it for quite a while? There's a spelling mistake on the label. Rested in handmade oak casks. Handmade should be one word, no? For a minimum of 17 years for a rich, full character with flavoured reminiscent. I think that looks fine to me. Toffee and dried fruits. So tell us, where's the spelling mistake, Terry? Oh, I've just been trolled. So it is reminiscent. So the reason that you won't be able to see... I'm going to try, because it runs over the font character. There's been a couple of bottle labels out there famously. Can you see reminiscent? Just it runs into the number 1 there, the top of the number 1. A wee spelling mistake. And it's not on the 13 either. Yeah, so that means that every bottle of Craigellachie 17, this is just another reason to make it a wee bit of a legend. They just embraced the spelling mistake, right? Fantastic, Just Terry. Good to have you in. Good to have do you want a job as a proofreader? We've got always a need for such things in Dramface, right? Can get a single cask Nation Craigellachie 16 for $150 USD. How much would you have to pay for the official 17-year-old? Although I might imagine that single cask Nation would be quite good. But it's probably, like I say, a single cask, and we know that this is a nice wee vatting of 50-50. So there we go. I'm 2 hours in, right on time. I've taken you through quite a few bottles tonight. 10 bottles at least, maybe 11 actually when I added that extra one in. It's not intended to induce FOMO. That's not the thing. But if you're going to go out and buy whiskey anyway, and you maybe want to buy something that you think might potentially disappear, I've given you a chunk of those. But if you want to just go out and buy something that you think is already a contemporary modern day legend and it doesn't need to disappear in order to be so, I've suggested 2 or 3 of those to you as well. I'm also mindful that some of them, despite how much I love them, for whatever reason, they haven't always had a place for me to talk about them on a vPub theme up until now. Of course, the Speyburn 15 has been spoken about at length, but other things like Victoriana and Craigellachie 17, I just think that there isn't, the way I love them, the way I celebrate these whiskies, you know, I feel like they have maybe been underrepresented, and I maybe feel like they do deserve the status of being contemporary, current, potential legends that we all love. Whiskey Vault is saying, good night, everyone. Going to sleep off the FOMO. Might pick up the quiz and the replay. Good luck is all to all the live players. Yes, if you are staying for the quiz at the end, I can promise you this much, fairly confidently. I made the quiz earlier today, or I finished the quiz earlier today, let's say that. But before I was setting up tonight, I went up and made the duplicate slides and things like that and prepped it up to be ready for sharing with you the quiz at the end. And I felt looking at the questions that it might be a touch easy this evening. Peter Wright is in. Good to see you, Peter. I hope you're keeping very, very well. Peter, it feels like you've been around the Whiskey Tube since the very, very, very early years. I hope you're keeping in good health and still enjoying it all, buddy. It's good to welcome you in the vPub. All right. Let's see if I can get this quiz up. Get the right background. How are we doing for time? We're doing okay. 2 hours and 10 minutes in. I think we're doing okay. I can't believe we're in May already, right? We're already in May. Wonderful. Favourite month of the year, as I say, everything's changing outside. It's warmer. Suddenly digging out, what did I do with my shorts at the end of last year? Things like that. Poured a dram of the Cocaine 16 for the new quiz, even if it's a touch easy. That's a legend right there. And it's also one that we celebrate the batch variation on as well, right, Rob? Fantastic stuff. Easy quiz usually means I do badly, says Mark Watt. Don't believe you for a second, big guy. I think you'll ace this. Greg is saying, wait, another 10 out of 10 victory for 90% of us. We're in for it, lol. I would be surprised if it was that easy, Greg. Where's Roy saying, sorry, Roy. Like to Vault Edition 1. Just took some time. Oxygen helped. Gets better as the level went down, says Roy Ovimere. Second Vault Edition is very different. Quite raw. Feels young. Focus is on the peat. I only ever tried, I never purchased Vaults Edition 2, I only ever tried it, and I knew immediately that my heart lay with the Atlantic Sea Salt Vault Edition 1, the freshness, the deliciousness. Jimmy Legg is saying, time flies for the elderly. I've heard it to be so. Certainly becoming true for me. Chris Pollock is saying, warm, ideal for a recycled review, hint, 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 hint. You never know, May just could be the month for it, Chris. I just need to take the right notion at the right moment and just get it done. Get out there and get it done. Cheers, buddy. All right, remember the quiz at the end. It's always multiple choice. Have fun with it. If you're struggling, lean on the crowd. If you want to play your own game, by all means do so. Only share your score if you want to. Look out for the banana skins. And of course, the deliberately obnoxious, horrible ass-hattery, especially at the end. Sean Causer is saying, as someone 4 years into my journey aquavitae, an easy quiz suits me. Haha, 10 incoming. Sean, I might have oversold it. Good luck, buddy. Strap in. Question 1. Which of these distilleries has released a global core expression called Legacy? So I'm looking for a distillery that's released a global core expression called Legacy. A, Glengoyne, B, Ardmore, C, Tomatin. Greg is saying, don't tell me, Roy, I'll be 60 in November. Wow, your 60th year. Hellswood is saying, certainly had the weather recently for a recycled review. Gene Kelly is saying, let the humbling begin. I love it. I love it. It's time we need kind of really need to have a session where we can reach out to Menno to host one of these so that I can participate in my own quiz, so that I can take some of my own medicine. The One Glassman is saying all of them, really. Pedro is also saying ABC. Mike Molasses is saying all. Greg is saying all. So here's me saying this is going to be an easy quiz. And we clearly have a banana skin. If you've been to Hill Rock, if you're there in that area on weekends, not whiskey, but have a look at Old Rhinebeck Aerodrome, a wee chat. That's me listening on a wee chat between Sugar Kitty and Kyle Taylor. Not even noticed that Kyle was in tonight. Good to have you in, Kyle. Okay, please be very careful with this. This is the question number 1, and I know that I often give you a freebie, but if there's a banana skin, you should look out. It may not necessarily be a freebie. I guess I discounted the banana. B and C at least, says Mike Molasses. Tomatin Legacy is not global. You've been sitting quietly in the background, or you just dropped in late tonight. Good to have you in, Doc. Thank you so much, buddy, for looking after us in Limburg last week. You were a superstar. It's just wonderful to have you around, and it's nice of you to drop in here tonight, buddy. And you're spot on. Tomato Legacy is not global because it's sold in North America and the United States as Dualcas. It's a completely different name. Glengoyne and Ardmore both have widely distributed legacy editions, whereas Tomatin had to rename their legacy for the States. However, you'll notice I've put an X and a tick because you might be of the impression that where you were in the States, or for whatever other reason, you were able to pick up Tomatin under the legacy branding. And in that case, you can go right ahead and take a freebie on this one. You can absolutely take the point because it's not possible for me to know what it's called in every market. So I think what I'm basically saying is everyone gets a freebie, and that's why there's 3 ticks. Question 2, which of these current release bottles, frustratingly, doesn't fit inside an IKEA Kallax cabinet? What a horrible question. What a horrible question. But our community knows this. We're all running out of storage, and we run to IKEA and we pick up an IKEA Kallax bookcase because we know it's the perfect scale and size and sturdiness to hold all our bottles of whiskey, only to find that something doesn't fit. I'm looking for tall bottles here. Which of these, frustratingly, does not fit inside an IKEA Kallax cabinet? A, Glen Scotia's Victoriana. B, Daftmill 15-year-old 5-strength. Or C, Spey, sorry, that should say Spey 18-year-old. Maybe the next one does. But to be honest with you, any of the Speyside Spey release bottles, Trittina, Fumari, the 18, the 15, they had a 12 at one point, any of them. Which of these current release bottles, frustratingly, does not fit inside an IKEA Kallax cabinet? There should also potentially be a banana skin here. We have an IKEA, but I have not mentioned it, all of the names of their cabinets. But I have not memorized all of the names of their cabinets. So this behind me, Jimmy, this is Kallax, this is Kallax, this is a Billy bookcase over here. That whole entire wall over the side where you sat that day that you were here, those are all Kallax cabinets. So there we go. Which of them does not fit? Rob Smith is saying this should be a banana skin. I think you're right, Rob. I should have had a banana skin. I don't know why I do not have it. Daniel Key is saying this made me stood up to find the bottles. B, says Greg's Whiskey Guide. He's going for the Daftmill, and he's saying, but we'll be tempted to say A, B, and C. Peter Finucane is saying, I care little for IKEA. I know, it's purely a function thing for us all, I'm afraid, Peter. It's nice to be able to afford nicer, kind of more durable things. Andy's nearly empty hours in the Nook. 17 bottles left to pack. 17 bottles can fit easily in one little cube of a Kallax cabinet. Lord Impaler is saying Clynelish and Glencadam are also tall bottles. Clynelish and Glencadam both just about squeeze inside a Kallax. I can tell you that the answers are Glen Scotia, Victoriana, Daftmill, Spey all have at times had trouble fitting into a Kallax. But these days, and I did pause ever so slightly to let you see, with this being in the back of my head, I did pause to let you see that the new Glen Scotia branding is shorter. They've gone shorter on the new branding. This does not fit in a Kallax. The new Glen Scotia branding does. Rebrand. Perfection box ticked. Well done. Yes, praise to Glen Scotia, says Harrow. There we go. Okay. It's another one of those. There was a time that Glen Scotia didn't, and that's probably the one that you have on hand. So you can absolutely take a freebie on this one as well. All of these are far too tall. Daftmill, another one I could have mentioned was Bimber. That's too tall as well. Seems to be quite a few Irish whiskies, a few American whiskies and things that go for these really tall bottles. Iron Root is an offender as well. Yeah, there's a lot of them out there. Tall bottles are a pain in the backside. That's why we also buy Billy bookcases, says Hellswood. And Bruce Bernard is saying, I've only ever owned the old bottle, so claiming a point. Exactly as it was designed, Bruce. Go right ahead, buddy. Question 3. Which of these distilleries was built specifically with the famous White Horse blend in mind? Okay, let's not say built, but let's say acquired with a view to contributing. Am I talking about A, Ardmore, B, Scapa, or C, Craigellachie? Ardmore is one of these distilleries that nobody can quite decide whether it's Highland or Speyside, right? Scapa is very much Highland, one of the 2 original legacy Orkney distilleries, now joined by much more. I think there's 4 distilleries in Orkney now, right? And Craigellachie, of course, in Speyside that we've just been speaking about. Which of them was specifically purchased, built, and constructed to support White Horse blended whiskey? Just home from work, says Donald Pass Whiskey. Good to see you, buddy. 3-day weekend. Yay, good for you on holiday Monday. It's always a fantastic thing, and it's often the weekend of my birthday too. A very, very lucky birthday. What a great way to spend a bus ride, says Rick Johnson. Must be having a chat with somebody else. I don't know if you even dare answer another question, says Mike Molasses. Come on, big guy. It should be fine from here on in at least. Go for it. We're looking for a distillery that was here to support White Horse. And it was, of course, alongside Lagavulin and the restless Peter Mackey at the helm, it was, of course, the one I finished on tonight is Craigellachie. C for Craigellachie. That's quite a tough question, actually, for being this early in the quiz. I'm starting to go back on this nonsense of I've done an easy quiz for you tonight. Never had White Horse. Is it smoky, says A. Martins? It can be. I've got a really quite old White Horse here. I bought this in Limburg last year. And this is the only White Horse blend that I have. And I don't know if I can remember detecting much of a smoke on it. Not particularly. But this is a very old bottling. I think this is from... It's a 40.7 litre. This is a 1980s, I would say, bottling. It's got a barcode on the back, so yeah, strong chance of it being a 1980s bottling. So it's been in there for about 30 years. Let's get rid of this. Get rid of me. So we go on to question 4. Which of these Highland distilleries produces a malt sold as Pelach or Pelach? I'm not sure about the pronunciation on this one. But this is a trade name for a specific malt made at a Highland distillery. Which one makes this malt called Pelach? A. Tobermory, B. Ben Nevis, or C. Edredar? So we've got an island Highland, a Western Highland, and a Southern Highland. Bob Wenting is starting to get a wee bit upset with me, suggesting, are you sure this is an easy quiz? And I think you might be right, Bob. You've got a point. Maybe what I mean is, and I hope that it is the case, that maybe the harder section from question 6 through to 10 might start to get a bit easier compared to previous or usual quizzes at the end. Okay, buddy, totally guessing here. A, says Bob. Mark Watt is suggesting that it's easy so far. He's in a comfortable place. Vasil is in. Good to see you, buddy. Paul Murray is suggesting A. Barry Coleman is saying hey, A. Good to welcome you. Paul and Barry. James Morgan also saying A, along with Helen Smith, Rob Smith, Bruce Bernard, George McLeod. Where's Royal Vermeer? Almost everyone saying A. Not much deviation from that, but of course, we are talking about Tobermory. We're starting to see this name appearing much more regularly on independent bottlings. And of course, that would signify that it's malt from Tobermory Distillery. Question 5 is always a picture. Here we have a picture of a distillery. You might recognize this distillery straight away. Keep your powder dry. I would like to know the owners of this distillery. Who owns this distillery? So a bit of an asshat here. Not only do you need to know the distillery you're looking at, but who owns it? Is it either A, Dewar's, which is Bacardi, of course, B, White and Mackay, C, Pernod Ricard, which of course is Chivas Brothers. Dewar's, White and Mackay, or Pernod Ricard? Who owns the distillery in the picture? And Rob Smith is saying, well, it's not me. Paul Murray is saying, I'll take any independent from Tobermory, peated or not lately. I think you've got a point. I think a lot of people are enjoying the renaissance and quality, consistent quality, actually, that's coming from Tobermory. The changes that they put in 20 years or so ago, the upgrades that they've made since, it's really helping keeping things from that distillery really quite strong. Rob Smith is saying that looks like my truck, though. Greg's Whisky Guide is saying, yeah, palm trees are giveaways. Oh, this is Scotland. We have palm trees everywhere, Greg. Palm trees grow like weeds here, you know, the tropical climate that we have. Black and white chimney, says Pedro. A lot of Dewar's distilleries these days. Let's go with A. Bruce Bernard is going with Graham on B. Tom Freeney is saying B. Okay, I can tell you that we are looking at Jura Distillery. This is Jura. The palm trees are there. I didn't Photoshop those in. They do genuinely exist. They're not, I mean, they're not legitimate palm trees, but there's some form of palm tree type thing. So that means that it's owned by B. White and Mackay on Jura Distillery. There we go. I have to say, it's a very pretty distillery. That, you know, you can see all the kind of big, ugly buildings at the back if you squint left and right, and there's a big industrial chimney there. But if you're on the island there with the water behind you and you're just looking at it, especially on a sunny day, it's just very, it always reminds me of the type of distillery that would exist in a model railway type setting. It's a beautiful place to go. Question 6. Good luck, everyone. Which brand of Islay single malt Scotch whisky includes a feature in its logo that is on a different landmass than the actual distillery location? So it chooses to celebrate something as part of its logo that is not where the distillery is located, and in fact is on a different landmass altogether. I've been there last year, he's saying. Oh no, Pedro got it wrong. Is it A, Ardnahoe, B, Colilla, C, Bunnahabhain? Which of those, for whatever reason, on its branding, on its bottle, chooses to celebrate or illustrate something from another landmass? Doc McAllen Final Rare saying Aquavita is great for playing football. I think I've still got a video of that, Doc. So when we were all out there in 2022, we found a goal and we made a goal and we played football. I'll never forget the header scored by Stefan Novak. Typical for a German to score a goal like that, right? There's a wee palm tree in our soon-to-be back garden, says Hellswood. I bet you're excited, Helen. Bet you're excited. Okay, lots and lots of people going for A for Ardnahoe. Cal Taylor thinks it might be C. Look who's in. Connor Strang. Is it the paps you can see from the distillery? Connor, how are you? How are you, my friend? How are you, big guy? It's so nice to see you in here. Feel like it's been a wee while, but I remember you like it was yesterday. I hope life and whiskey is treating you well. Okay, let's go for it. Let's go for it. I can tell you that it is, of course, the Paps of Jura, as Connor said, and it is, of course, the logo of Ardnahoe. So Ardnahoe is obviously built on Islay, but it looks across the Sound of Islay to Jura. And from there you can see clearly 2 of the 3 Paps of Jura. And in its logo here you can see the distillery, the pagoda roofline. But in the background you've got the Paps as part of it. That's what that logo's all about. So many of you celebrating a 6 out of 6 tonight. Well done, everyone. Jimmy Jazz is in tonight as well. Good to see you, buddy. Rob Smith is on a 6 out of 6, as is Warner, the one glass man. Falsgraf also on a 6. Dave the Brave, good to see you, Dave, on a 6. Scott Allen on a 6. Daniel Key has hit a banana skin. He's on a 5, but he's still got his pass mark. Good to have you, buddy, still in here. Okay, question 7. The Scotch Guard was a flock of 7 geese, which famously guarded what? This was a whiskey story. 7 geese. They called them the Scotch Guard because they were there to guard A, a now closed distillery, B, a bonded warehouse, or C, a cooperage. Hellswood has seen a very picturesque view from the still room. Absolutely. Rob Smith is celebrating his 6 with a very big assist from the crowd. That's the way to do it. Scott's saying, I had to check my newly purchased Ardna Hall. Good for you, Scott. It's nice to have the props and prompts at your side. Has to be B, says Graham Fraser. B for Ballantyne, says Sugar Kitty. Good morning from Bali, everyone, says Justin Wan. We'll catch this one on replay. I'll raise a wee glass to you showing off, Justin. Well done. Dropping in just to show off that you're in Bali. I'm only a wee bit jealous tonight. I've had my fix, my mental health fix in Limburg last week, but Bali sounds bloody nice, buddy. I hope you enjoy it. Cheers, Justin. Was it not Dumbarton, says Ian Bruce? I heard it on a podcast. Well, if it was from me, it was probably a mistake. I can tell you I did get my facts wrong on this one very recently. It is. I used to think it was Inverleithen Distillery. I used to think it was Dumbarton, but no, it was in Dumbarton, but it was actually not a closed distillery, not a cooperage, but it was a bonded warehouse up there at Dumbuck. And they brought in these geese because the geese are very light sleepers and very territorial. So as soon as they have something on site, they start making a hell of a racket and a noise. Here they are here, the 7 geese. And underneath the billboard, the advertising campaign that they used to celebrate these guard geese, the Scotch Guard as they became known, it was one gander called, I think, Mr. Ballantyne, they called him, along with his 7 brides, if you like. Quite a cool story. Quite a cool story. So if you answered B for a bonded warehouse, that's correct. Question 8. Before being rebuilt, which of these distilleries remained closed for the longest period? I'm going to give you 3 born-again distilleries. I need you to tell me which one remained shuttered for the longest. A, Annandale in the Lowlands, B, Glengyle in Campbelltown, or C, Jura in the Highlands. No banana skins or anything here, just a pretty tricky question. All of these distilleries spent a long, long time in a state of neglect, disrepair, misuse, alternate use, demolished state. They all had to be significantly rebuilt and brought back on stream. Lots and lots and lots of you on 7 out of 7. Great to see. Mike Molasses is fighting tonight. He's gonna have to fight some more to get himself over the pass mark, buddy. It's not normal. We see you down there looking for 2 more to get your pass mark. Hope we can bring you through, bud. Has to be A, must be A. Switching to A, got to be A. Vasil is saying A. Pure guess, says George McLeod. Good to see you in, George. Kyle Taylor is saying, Annandale screwed me last week. Not going to let it get to me today. Oh, how did that happen, Kyle? How did that happen? It's okay to share. Safe space and all of that. Falsgraf is not sure. ARB says I'm going for A. A, but could have been close with B. Okay, I can tell you that. You're very, very, very knowledgeable folk. It is Annandale in the Lowlands. It is A. Jura in the Highlands was closed for 62 years before it was brought back to life by people who were actually living quite local. Glengyle and Campbelltown was obviously brought back on stream by Janie Mitchell. After 79 years, but Annandale, David Thompson and his crew down there brought Annandale back to life. And they did a fabulous job of reviving the buildings. There's a hell of a lot of work needs done on that whiskey, in my opinion. After 93 years, so it was A I was looking for. Question 9. Okay, it's a bit of an I am a distillery type theme here. This is, I am a malt whiskey brand, which has been in its current form since the 1980s. Despite a recent price hike, I became the second best-selling malt in my region in 2022. And despite size constraints, I've increased my capacity by around approximately 1 million litres this century. Part of my label branding is associated with the writer William Black. Who am I? A. Talisker. B. Craigellachie. C. Lagavulin. Jelle Hemstra. I think I'm probably making a mess of that pronunciation, Jelle, but Aquavita, too late for the vPub, but we'll watch and replay again. Love your content every week. A little appreciation message over here. Keep up the good work. Yeah, it's wonderful to have you in just to say hello and say nice words, buddy. I hope you enjoy the replay. Let us know how you got on at the quiz at the end, buddy. It's nice to have you in. Listen, there's lots and lots of strong scores here tonight. Lots and lots of people on an 8 out of 8. This is not a particularly tricky question, I think. One Glassman is suggesting it's not easy. Lachlan McKenzie is saying hot stuff. He's probably talking about Annandale, I think. McCallan Final Rare Doc is saying hi, yellow. A mere mention of price hike has me believing it's Talisker, says Gene Kelly. Peathead is going to guess it's A. Fastcraft is saying WTF, A. I have no idea, guessing A. Okay. Oh. I'll do A, but question mark, says Paul Murray. Come on, Paul, finish the sentence. But what? Lachlan McKenzie saying C, Sugar Kitty C, Nicholas C, Vasil C, Grizz Whiskey C. Oh, wow. Just went back to that Victoriana there. So rich. So shouty. Okay. Put you out your misery here. I just have to look at something. Wonderful. So I was speaking about specifically Lagavulin 16. In 1988, the Lagavulin 16 first appeared. It famously appeared with a passage by William Black on the front label talking about the moss water and the fact that he'd been to Lagavulin and it's mild as milk and as fine as new milk or something. I can't remember. I looked at the Lagavulin 8 I had there, and it's obviously got the passage from Alfred Bernard. So it was Lagavulin I was looking for. A price hike, of course. Lagavulin had a recent price hike, going from 60 to 80, more or less, in the UK and everywhere else. Second biggest selling malt in Isla is its region. Lefroy always is number 1, of course. Bowmore used to be number 2, but Lagavulin overtook Bowmore, probably because of the mess that they're making of Bowmore right now. Just putting out such nonsense. Size constraints, Lagavulin doesn't have much way to. They've got a road on one side and the sea on the other. It's very, very difficult for them to get any bigger. But despite that, they've gone from about 2 to 2.5 million to 3 to 3.5 million in the last century. And the label branding, of course, William Black, and it is a fantastic thing to track down. It's the Strange Beast of Sunival, I think, is the name of the thing that's quoted on the label, and it's a fantastic piece of writing to track down. It's wonderful to read. Okay, asshat at the end. Let's see how many of us are on a 9 as we go into the asshat at the end. My goodness, Hellswood, Harrow, Whiskey Weekend Dram, Jimmy Jazz, Steve Atkiss, Greg's Whiskey Guide, Sharmila Suze, Ian Bruce, Where's Roy Mayer, Bob Wenting, Lachlan McKenzie, Vasile, Rob Smith, loads and loads of you, Dave the Brave. Okay, we're at 15, 16 and more. Graham Young is on a 9 out of 9 with a do-over. Good for you, Graham. Graham Fraser is also on a 9 out of 9, close to dropping a point there. Fantastic, Graham. You've held on. Here we go as we roll into the deliberately awkward ass hat at the end. One of the easier ones, but I've maybe mispredicted again. Here we go. How many men of Tain were said to make up the experienced and celebrated workforce of Glenmorangie in the 1920s? This was the men of Tain. It was a very specific number when we talked about the men of Tain. What was that number? About the same number as A, the operational Scotch malt distilleries that begin with the letter S. B, the number of operational Scotch malt island distilleries excluding Islay. So all the island distilleries that are not Islay. C, years of age statement on Glendronach's discontinued Parliament expression. So is it number of distilleries in Scotland produced malt beginning with S, the number of island distilleries if you count them all up but don't include Islay, or is it the number of years age statement on a bottle of Glendronach's Parliament? Jerry Miller was in, but his bus is getting him home quicker than he thought. He's saying good night. Good to have you. I've had you in. Aquaviti almost pronounced it right. Jella? Jella? You'll have to help me, buddy. I would like to try and get it right. Otherwise, if I make a mess of it, I'll make up a wee nickname for you, like we had to do with Doc. I love it. Here I learned Parliament is discontinued. Indeed it is, Paul. Remind me to drink it when I visit with a friend with a bottle next month. I'll go with B for the crowd, but I have no idea, admittedly, says Paul. Connor Strang is going for B. Too Slow is going for B, along with Steve Atkins, Gino Camo, Bob, Nicholas, Greg, Bruce, George. Lots and lots of people going for B with part of the crowd. Okay, let's try and help you a little bit by telling you the final numbers. I can tell you that Operational Scotch Malt Distilleries beginning with S, number 8. Operational Scotch Malt Distilleries, excluding Islay, number 16. Years of age statement on Glendronach's Parliament, of course, was 21, which means that we're looking for the 16 men of Tain. The 16 men of Tain. B was correct. For anyone that said B, you got it right. How are we getting on? Ian Bruce is already celebrating a 10 out of 10. Sharmilla Sue's a 10 out of 10. Steve Atkins on a 10. Fantastic, Steve. Well done. Well done, Sharmilla. Well done, Ian. 10 out of 10 for Bob Welting. Falsgraf as well. Hellswood. Good. Well done, Helen. Well done, class. Nicholas on a 10 out of 10. Who's this? Vasile. Sugar Kitty. Steve Atkins. Hellswood. That's us on 11 or 12 now. Come on, I've already said Helen, haven't I? Graham Young, Graham Fraser. Rob Smith is saying 10, but I totally cheated. At least you're not kidding yourself. Greg is saying, yes, super again. 10 out of 10. Well done, Greg. Peter Box celebrating a 10. Good to see you, Peter. Gino Camo on a 10. Fantastic, Gino. Well done, buddy. Good I've had to hear. Dave the Brave on a 10 out of 10 as well. Wonderful stuff. So I was kind of right when I said that a lot of us were going to be enjoying a 10 out of 10 tonight. And I remember a time that when Connor Strang was here back in the very early days of the vPub, I think I'm going back as early as 2017, 2018 era. Connor Strang was a regular here, and I used to call him my A student. It was quite a patronising thing now that I look back on it, but I meant it in the right way, and here he is back again, scoring a 10 out of 10. He's not lost much, has he? Where's Roy celebrating a 10 as well? Rick Johnson is saying congratulations to all the 10s tonight. Hiela Hemstra is saying it's with a silent D. Rest is okay, buddy. A silent D. Oh, wow. Where does the D go? The rest is okay, buddy. Maybe you need to type it phonetically for me. Rami Diaz is saying, has just joined the Aquaviti Barfly. Cesare the Fly Moocher. I missed that, Cesare. Celebrating being a member for 24 months, saying good night, all. Good night. Yeah, great topic and stuff. Thank you, Cesare. Hellswood is celebrating being a member of Barflies for 61 months. Happy birthday when it comes, Roy. Much love as always. And Jimmy Legg has bought me a big, fat, generous birthday dram, Jimmy. That's too much, my friend. But thank you so much. He's saying happy birthday, Roy. With every year that passes, we love you more and more. You're surrounded by many, many great people. I think the second part of that sentence is definitely true, buddy. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold up the last wee sip of the Glen Scotia Victoriana to say thank you so much for that generous dram and lovely words, big guy. Cheers. A wee dram in from Rick Johnson as well. Rick, thank you so much for your generosity, buddy. Lovely gesture. He's saying happy birthday next week, Roy. Thank you so much. And a dram coming in from Gino. It's all coming in at the end. Happy birthday, buddy. You have a fantastic day on Monday. Cheers all the way from Canada. Cheers to you, Gino. Cheers to you and all of yours, my friend. I know it's your buddy. Graham is in with you tonight, although that you're both remote from each other. Rick Johnson, thank you very, very much, my friend. And Gino, thank you to you as well. Cheers to you all, Slanchava. Harrow is saying happy birthday. It's just everything I pick up tonight is gorgeous. Everything is absolutely delicious. Truly just fantastic whiskies. Dan is saying good night and happy birthday to all the birthday boys and girls. Mike Melissa is saying happy birthday next week, Roy. Thank you very much, Mike, and thank you, Dan. And I missed Lachlan McKenzie saying thanks, Roy, and good night, all. Good night, Aquaviti. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for participating tonight. Thank you for joining me. I will, of course, be back here next week, like I always am, to talk whiskey, to have a wee bit of downtime, to do what we always do on the vPub. How are we getting on? Look at that. It's just kind of gut feel. It's almost about the 2 hours 45, something about that window. It's just the way it's working out right now. I look forward to it. I really do enjoy it. A wee drama in from Yale as well, even though I've pronounced his name wrong. No comment or anything. I was hoping for some phonetic spelling there. Thank you, buddy. Thanks you for indulging me as well in my terrible pronunciation. Cheers. I really do enjoy it. I enjoy coming up with the topics and things like that as well. But remember, leave your input, your feedback, your own whiskies that you feel are legendary in the comments underneath. I think it's nice, even if it's just to back up what I have said, what the people in the community have said tonight, that kind of thing, to add extra weight to that consensus, or maybe come in with something that we've forgotten, of course. It makes it all the more valuable for everybody. Thank you all so very, very much. I'll raise this glass to you all to thank you for another nice wee Thursday night in the vPub. I look very much forward to next week, and until then, I'll remind you all that you're very dearly loved and say Slanchava. Cheers to you all.